You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of What If Deku Enters Welcome to Demon School. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Do check and support the authors too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Elizabeth smiled to herself with absolute glee. Thanks to there being an actual class for succubus, there was plenty of open room at the succubus battler, which would also double as extra credit. It was perfect for her. She could use a little boost in her grades, and why not develop her natural talents while she was at it? Valak, for the last time, you're not joining. Potential husband #1 groaned from outside the room as he held the little she-demon in his grasp, who was trying to crawl her way into the classroom. She definitely wouldn't mind being in that position. I know you like to use your imagination, but even you should have a limit to how much you indulge your delusions. Shut up. Once I join, I'll be queen of sexy. All will bow down before my playtime, potential CNCBNB shouted, scratching at the air maniacally. Clara, look at it like this. Women's only battler, that means me and Az won't be able to join with you. Potential husband #3 calmly approached her. Oh, how delightful. Not many understood the charm of a gentle approach. And we want to have time to play more, right? The girl stopped immediately. Dang it, that's no fun then, she muttered, looking sullen. Therefore, it was her duty to step in and help. Don't worry, I'll take some notes and we can review them over tea, Elizabeth told potential CNCBNB. I have to say though, it looks like you're doing fine on your own. The honor student is always by your side and doesn't want to leave. Loyalty was also an important trait to have. She could only imagine how caring he would be in bed. Yeah, he's mine. All mine, forever. Potential CNCBNB eagerly stood her ground. Rame MSTRS walked up to the group. I get you want to stay together, but it's nice to at least get an attempt. She smiled, looking over to potential husband #1. Although, if we put him in a dress, and we're leaving. The pink-haired hunk spoke, grabbing the two and moving fast away. Awa, so shy, she'd have to work on his prudness and make him embrace her more. In TMT parts of roleplay. Sabro was in awe at this place. Here he thought it was just people wanting to be the Demon King meeting in one spot to duke it out for the crown. But what he found was far better than anything he could ever conceive. Scrolls, books upon scrolls of Demon King knowledge, predictions and theories based on old text deciphered. Legends of old finally told, it was a paradise. Anyone striving to be the Demon King just had to come here. They'd be a fool not to join right away. Izuku, his rival, gave a faint noise as he looked the group over. It's nice and quiet, but he stared at the surrounding scholars of history. It kind of feels just like the library battler with fewer options. He gave another look to the ones sitting at a table, practically drooling over new information. That and the people seem a bit obsessive. Asmodeus, his lesser obstacle, muttered as he stared at the eyes of the others. How were they in any way obsessive? Only a bore wouldn't be obsessed over texts with even sleep not being able to hold them back. I don't like the looks they're giving us. I feel violated. Come on, can't we blow something up? Or play hide and seek? Anything other than just sitting around and reading, Clara shouted loudly, getting shushes from the others before going back to their work. I don't understand what is wrong. This is the perfect place for thou. Who wishes to join the ranks of the almighty Demon King? Sabro shouted to the heavens. I still don't see what's so special about the role of a king here. Izuku spoke sacrilegiously, as everyone stopped to stare at him with looks of contempt. Blasphemy, let us remove this stain from the face of the netherworld, the president shouted loudly. The others started hissing, grabbing various weapons of old. Oh come on, I can't even say my opinion without getting attacked. His rival pushed back against the scholars, diving head first into danger as always. As much as he was inclined to attack as well, Izuku was still a worthy rival. And his friend too, he guessed. He wished to be a hero that saved everyone, so obviously down the line he would have to realize the best way to do that was to be the Demon King. You know, this is a rare moment where one must truly look past themselves and ask how far they're willing to go. How should one's morality interact with their sense of ambition, and if they should interact at all? And as the line grows larger and larger, it must become asked if they should abandon said morality for a greater purpose, to be above one's old life, or achieve true peace. As said to himself, deep in thought he spoke aloud. We're not letting Clara get boiled by black magic users. Izuku deadpanned at his explanation. Oh come on, she loves it. He pointed to the heated brew with Clara in it, swimming like it was her own personal pool. Can't we just let them cook her a little? Come on, what did we say about helping others? Izuku asked him. Az sighed and sulked his head. Even if you don't want to, helping someone makes you feel warmer than any fire. He groaned. Altruism SCK. I'm sure you'll look back on this day and remember it fondly. Easy for you to say, your reputation is founded by chaos, mine has been slowly dwindling. And whose fault is it that most people think I'm some calamity cultist? Az decided to just end the conversation there by attacking the battlers in question. Oh, would you look at that, an opening, let's run, he said, ignoring the look from Izuku. Gomen's end goal was to join the combat battler, but he might as well look under all the blades of grass for the hidden 13-leaf clover. It wasn't as if it was the worst option to choose from amongst these groups. The ranking exam proved to be very advantageous for Izukumidoriya and Asmodeus, so if he could strengthen his skills, who was he to deny the opportunity? I'm glad you lot are here, I heard great things, the captain shouted at Izuku and his gang as they arrived down the stairs. Of course they would show, they had natural talent in this sport. You all have some crazy powerful magic in ya? You'd be perfect for the battler. About that. I don't really feel comfortable using magic. It's unstable at the moment, and it feels like a disgrace to training, so I wouldn't be able to use it all the time. Izuku spoke up to the captain. Oh, that's actually kind of lame when you explain it like. The captain brutally criticized him. Who was he to argue what felt honorable and could be earned through strong work? Gomen's opinion of this battler went down tenfold. Take that back, you jerks. I'll show you what Izuku-kin's brain taught me. Clara Valak dug deep into her pockets and began yanking for an uncomfortable amount of time until she pulled out. What in the 9 circles? How did she create a tank? For the love of everything unholy, scatter! A member shouted as the screaming began. It was even worse that they were underground, slowly becoming caved in. It took the combined efforts of himself and Asmodeus to block the rubble. Strange, the representative usually didn't involve himself so quickly, especially protecting obvious degenerates. Clara, it's fine. There's no need to go overboard like this. The honor student hooked himself to the mobile weapon of mass destruction, feebly trying to rein the madwoman in. Stuff like this is why I don't teach you about gunpowder. Oh, you can make powder guns? She shouted, slowly reaching into her pockets. That sounds like fun. New. Multiple voices overlapped in chaotic harmony. Izuku already had a one-woman army on his side. May any divine power out there help them the day Clara Valak actually realized that. Quickalite watched as the president tapped her fingers quietly against the desk. She was more impatient in the last few days, and right now she seemed especially picky when it came to putting up these strange decorations. They were pretty, no one could deny that, but the why was still unknown. You think she's worried Asmodeus won't accept the offer? He quietly asked Grave, who had been there the moment Amory-san approached with her offer. Of course not, this is the student council. It's absolutely obvious he'll accept if he truly wishes to go far in life. Smoke spoke, working on her portion of the decorations. Always a true believer in counsel above all. Actually, it's not Asmodeus. Grave clarified. Well, the offer was made, but it was more of a side note. Huh, that didn't make sense. She explicitly made an offer to the honor student in person. She believes he has more potential being in the student council. Really, that guy causes so much trouble, she probably just wants to stop him from doing something insane. Johnny deadpanned, putting another flower on the wall. Well, we're also talking about the same guy who tamed the guardian of Cutthroat Valley and beat Asmodeus, twice technically. Smoke recalled, raising a fairly good point. And he always draws a crowd no matter what. Someone like that actually could do some good in the right hands. Quickalite thought about it. This was all just speculation though. However, a thought occurred to him. Do we even know if he's interested in joining? That was the wrong thing to say, as an ominous and destructive aura that ruled their lives was now aimed at them. What are you talking about? Of course he'll join. It's the best option for him. He'll join if he knows what's good for him. The president prudently exclaimed, making them all shrink away in fear. If he doesn't join, I'll... She froze mid-sentence and turned away. Wait, is this why he's afraid? Am I really that scary? She turned to them. Well, am I? Of course not, ma'am. Your ever breath is divine, Smoke spoke up in her worshipping tone. A little on the nose there. No, ma'am, you're incredible, Quickalite spoke hastily. I was simply asking if you talked to him about joining other than offering the flyer and walking away. I know the situation was bad at the time and we needed to try and keep the rookie hunt small so. The next thing they knew, their lovely president was starting to shake a little with a hint of a red blush across her face. It would have been cute if they were so terrified. Everyone, please get out. She stood still, giving a more neutral tone than before. That was all they needed to make their way out. Quietly and orderly, of course. Their fear shouldn't give way to loss of dignity. Don't come back in for a few hours, no matter what. The door was shut on them. The only thing they could hear was loud screams of frustration as they quickly fled away. She'd calm down eventually, right? Finally, we went to the broadcasting division. They didn't chase us with pitchforks like the rest of them, but Clara talking on the intercom did make them quite upset. Izuku told Sullivan as the man worked on his ring. If battlers weren't essential for ranking up, I just wouldn't have bothered. Papa, are you sure there was nothing you could have done? Inko asked as she glared at him. How scary, he needed to cover his tracks quickly. I tried, my dear, but if we put too many rules on it, they just do it illegally rather than legally. One time it got so bad we had to expel 80% of the school body. At that point we decided that organized chaos is better than unorganized one. He explained as she calmed down a bit with wide eyes. I don't get it. Why are they so desperate and violent? She asked no one in particular. It's simply how it is. Opera spoke up from their spot, stirring some Hell's Grey tea. They seek enough members to both ensure the future success of their battler, along with help at the division party. At that point Izuku looked up. That's one of the 4 times left I have to rank up as a freshman, right? He asked in his adorably curious way. So cute. Yes, you see there is no advice I can give because each method of winning is different. The only definite goal is to become more popular than other battlers, but to do so you need to reach an unprecedented level of skill based on showing what your battler is about. For example, an appealing display from the art battler, or a fun time with the game battler, or a great match with the execution cannonball battler. I figured you wouldn't join mine, and what you do is on your own. Opera spoke as they gazed at the demon with rapt attention. All right, so I just need to go big. What was your battler, Opera-san? Izuku asked. Beat everyone in your path to a bloody pulp battler. Opera spoke without a hint of remorse, giving his daughter and grandson those cute faces of worry that's become common. I thought you were so refined. I didn't think that you were such a delinquent in your youth. Inko expressed hints of disappointment at the butler, whose ears actually wilted down a little. Ha! He wasn't the only one on her radar now. All right, fixed, Sullivan shouted, proud of his work. Took so many parts and so much time. Now then, I have it set on a few special modes. Now then, raise your finger and say La Fire. He spoke to his grandson. Izuku nodded, raising their hand up in the air. La Fire. A small speck of flame danced on his fingertips. Izuku looked at it with wonder. Ah, so adorable. He was glad he invested in those camera glasses. First up, Demon Mode. You'll take a little of my magic. Don't worry, I've got tons to spare. He assured the two. After that is Divi Mode. He tilted the ring as the fire spread higher. You latch onto one magic and take it, probably Asmodeus. I should explain this later. Izuku muttered, looking at the large fire in wonderment with Inko. Such a cute family. After that is Ifrit Mode. The fire became a giant tri-colored face, screaming with metal and candy as it giggled maniacally. You take 3 magics, still unstable, so stick with demon mode for now. The boy nodded, whipping his finger fast as to rid him of the fire. Finally, an emergency mode I put in for when your life is in absolute danger. Pandarula, Sullivan stated. Pando SHT. He covered the boy's mouth before another syllable could be uttered. No, the moment you say it, it activates, he explained as the boy nodded. Now then, Pandarula mode will use your own body to help support the taking of magic until you're maxed out. It'll hurt and give you brain strain, but you'll have enough power to even give me some damage. So it's in case of emergency mode, he briefly summed up. Precisely. I know there's no avoiding all danger, especially if you aim to be a hero, but I'd still rather you leave anything requiring Pandarula level magic to me, the teachers, or opera, since they're your familiar. So promise you won't use it until you've MSTR the ring somewhat. I will, Grandpa, I promise. His darling grandson gave him a grateful smile before covering his eyes, making his tears sprinkle everywhere. I would have never imagined anyone ever giving me a real chance to belong anywhere. Grandpa, He cut himself off and gave him the tightest hug he's ever had. Izuku. Sullivan started, patting him on the back, holding back every squeal he ever could so as to not ruin the moment. You absolutely belong here. Thank you, Papa. Inko spoke, joining the teary-eyed hug, and he tried even harder to hold back his squeals. I love you all so much, he failed spectacularly. He would hear reports of a massive and rather random flood warning all throughout the next day. Truly, he had the best family ever. Amory sighed, pacing back and forth inside of the now fixed student council room. All she could do was wait and hope he would come, like he didn't yesterday. He would come right. She didn't just jump to conclusions, no, Quickalite was just spouting nonsense. Oh, who was she kidding? This was an absolute nightmare situation. She had the perfect opportunity to secure the perfect boyfriend Fr Eshman for the student council, and she blew it with her scary personality. Now she feared Izuku would find excuses to not come see her and completely blow off their readings entirely. A knock on the door blew her out of her internal ramblings, causing her to stand straight and stoic. Enter. The door opened to reveal Izuku, causing her facade to nearly crumble. Izuku, she shouted a bit too eagerly. You finally came. I was worried for a second that I scared you off from me. I mean the student council. I'm so glad you reconsidered. Haha, yeah, that's what I came to tell you, Izuku trailed off. Wait, why was he shaking again? Oh no, did she raise her voice too loudly? Why did she have to be overly confident in everything? Really, thank you for your offer yesterday. It really was an honor to be considered after everything that's happened. But I kinda, sorta, already picked a battler already, heh. Amory could feel something shatter inside, a bit of sparking hope dying off. Oh, I see, she muttered, taking a seat. Well then, I guess they have more of what you're looking for, she asked without her usual energy. Of course, Izuku shouted with a bright smile. The magical apparatus battler, really, that's the one he wanted to go with? She could understand if he was scared of her and chose to join something like the library or gaming battler, maybe even the new magic battler, but the magical apparatus battler, something so low on the totem pole? Oh really? I suppose you have a good reason for joining that as opposed to the student council, she asked, making sure to hide a seeping anger at being rejected when she put so many hours into planning his initiation. Luckily, Izuku seemed to miss it completely. Yeah, I still have a lot of problems controlling my magic, so the idea of working with magical support items was really fascinating to me. Guess that made sense. He's a quirkless human, so items giving people power must have been appealing to him. I ran into the upperclassman in charge of it, and, well, when we met, I couldn't help but feel like I knew what he's been through. Kuriwo Amy, if she remembered, was actually running out of time to find a member, so she supposed it worked out in the end. I'm glad you could find something to suit your interests. I guess you'll go and head off to the battler now, right? Oh, but don't you want to have the readings right now, huh? It's around the time we usually have them, and I sort of blew you off yesterday by not telling you about my decision. Again, really sorry about it. She did not expect this. He had the perfect opportunity to leave her side completely, not that she would ever actually let that happen, because he was still a human that needed to be observed constantly, and he actually felt bad about ignoring her. Izuku, do you consider me a friend? Amory-san, what? What brought this on? He still shook, so he did still feel some fear being around her. Well, you're who weaker than most demons. She tried to be less insulting, but there was no other way to put it without mentioning it. You're surrounded by a lot of people who could easily stomp on your, or possibly even get you killed in a complete accident. Honestly, I wouldn't blame you for being afraid of me. Amory, I'm not afraid of you, and nervous sure, but I'm not afraid. Her heart began fluttering. This was the first time he said her name without honorifics. Only special people do that with each other, just like in the sacred texts. They pretty much confessed to each other already. It's been pretty fun reading and just talking with you, even if it gets a little embarrassing at times. How was it embarrassing? They were just talking about relationships, dreams, dates. Oh, now she was catching on. Her face grew a bit flush as well. So you don't mind hanging out and translating the forbidden text? She asked him. Oh no, I'm way too invested now to not keep reading it. He admitted. It's always more fun to read something you enjoy with friends. Friends? From what she understood, Izuku held that term in high regard, so that meant she was special to him. Haha, yes, she's in the friend zone now. I'm glad. Now then, let's move on to the next volume, and figure out why the secret organization is chasing after Haru. It's always the small plots that blow up in your face, Izuku said as he let her grab the book. Inko stared at the door with wide eyes. Well, less at the door and more at the boy in front of it. Izukumidoriya, she was going to be in the same battler as him. It was a dream come true, even if she was exaggerating the skills she's gained. It would just mean she had to comprehend magical apparatus engineering before the division party, no problem. If she could gain a surprising talent for photography in such a short time, this shouldn't be an issue at all. Hey, Izuku-kins, glad you're here. We're going to have a fun time. Who the hell is this? Velak, or, since she's now a part of Izuku's friend squad, guessed she should start calling her Claw, yelled in a tone that was not her usual childish but oddly cute one. This is Inko. Izuku smiled, even as the little girl blinked. She goes to this school, more blinking. Saved her when fighting Az on the first day, even more blinking in oblivion to that wonderful day. Met her again after being launched from the tree? The little girl smiled, but gave no recognition whatsoever. You pulled her shirt off. Oh yeah, eye string, she laughed, and Inko had a feeling it wasn't out of fondness of the memory. Well, Izuku-kin says you're his friend, so that means we're friends too. Clara violently shook her arm in her own hands. Just know, I can tangle with Lady Red Hair. Who? Asmodeus, for the first time since they met, showed more empathy and pity than he showed when he nearly killed her, or apologized to her. I am sorry you have been dragged into this den of insanity. He spoke, before walking to the door. Rude, she was in Izuku's group now, that was perfect. Sorry about Az, he's still adjusting to being friends with anybody. Izuku apologized. He's trying, really, he doesn't call me out for being a danger junkie anymore. Well, at least not as much as he used to. What are you talking about? Being a danger junkie just means you're barely afraid of anything, and can fight off bad guys no problem. She smiled. Thanks. I wish I was as cool as you described me. Izuku laughed, and she laughed as well. He had such a great sense of humor too. Well, at least this place won't be as dangerous to our health. He smiled. An explosion went off just a second later, the door falling to the ground as the group stared at it. Amy came out, coughing up some BLD. Sorry about them, got the wires mixed up. He smiled before hitting the ground. Asmodeus looked at the body, then at Izuku. So did you already sign us up, or is there a window of backing out of this? It's either this, or we go back to the battler with the killer plants, or the battler with exploding books, or the battler with the senpai that wants your fire. Asmodeus stared at Izuku for a solid 5 seconds. Alright, Inko, right? Grab the legs, I'll grab the upper half. She complied, half because of her still lingering fear of the pink-haired student, the other half being because it was probably what Izuku would do, which meant it was the right thing to do. After a few minutes they were now fanning the badly injured man. I'm sorry about that, when I'm alone I don't really have anyone to double-check my work, and it can end with more errors than it should. The senpai apologized as they placed him on a pillow Clara produced. So embarrassing. I'm in charge, And it's you four that's already taking care of me. Don't think anything of it, Amy-san. We're just happy you're not injured too badly. Ah, still the same caring person she knew he was. Was there anybody here Izuku wouldn't be nice to? Speaking of which, what exactly were you working on? Oh, it's a magical enhancement device. It works on a perpetual motion theory that increases magic put into it 100-fold and places it into an object on top. He explained something that she could barely follow along with, but it looked like Izuku understood it, so she would write all of this down until knowing it was second nature. Although, it won't work without the power source, and well, he pointed to what looked like scattered purple glass on the ground. Ooh, game time! Clara eagerly started picking up the pieces and forcing them together. She did this with a few of them, and to her surprise, they were actually sticking together. Valak, would you cut it out? Asmodeus began to scold. So sorry about this, senpai. Valak has a strong time reining in her childish urges even at the most important of times. Actually, she's doing it perfectly, Amy-senpai stated, causing everyone to gape in confusion. Yay, I won the puzzle game, Valak shouted happily, now revealing a pink heart. Impressive. Let me show you it in action while I gather something. Amy-senpai got up slowly, grabbing a crystal ball and a paper doll. First, I'll show you all the basic applications of these objects. The paper doll started moving on its own once a little magic was put in it. It detects certain magical signatures. Oh, like a GPS, Izuku said out loud. GP what now? Izuku-kins always has something funny to say. Amy continued as if he didn't hear the comment. This is a glow-up orb. Put magic into it and the orb started to glow like a candle. That's so impressive, Amy-senpai. How did you're bleeding again? The man was in fact bleeding from the mouth again. Are you sure there's nothing we can do about this? No, it's something I've dealt with my entire life. My body doesn't contain a whole lot of mana without my support item, so my body is weaker than a normal demon's. Inko felt a tinge of pity. A near magicalist demon. Around here, that could be a fate worse than death to some. Trust me when I say, I know how you feel. Izuku placed a hand on the upperclassman's shoulder. My ring and your collar have more in common than you think. It's really only thanks to it that I have any kind of power at all. Wait, you're saying your magic comes from the ring? Asmodeus looked stunned, as did she and everyone else, looking at the honor student a bit worriedly. Wait, no, at the fight you didn't fight back, Izuku reminded him. I was born with a defect. He spoke slowly, as if figuring out how to word this. My body doesn't have any magic. I can only use it externally. I haven't said anything because at my old school. He let it hang because nothing else needed to be said. A picture was formed, a very dark picture of a boy not even worth an aleph one that would become prey to all those around them for the mere fact he existed weak, because that was how their world functioned. She suddenly had the feeling that Izuku's lack of sense for safety stemmed from not-so-pleasant experiences. Valak looked confused, but likely because she was just curious about the lack of magic. She probably didn't understand beating someone down because they were weak, since she just wanted people to play with. Asmodeus, on the other hand, had a dark look on him. He clenched his fist and grit his teeth in a hidden rage. Amy-senpai was different, looking at Izuku with a sense of wonder and curiosity. Wow, I didn't think it was possible. The grandson of Sullivan was born magicless. His glasses looked like they fogged up a little. All this time I thought I was alone. Yeah, same here. Izuku only nodded his head slowly. But you don't have to be. We're all here right now, together, right? He looked at the rest of them. Of course I am, Izuku-kins. I don't care about your magic, your fun, with or without it. Valak jumped on the boy's back. You're stuck with me forever. And I'll stay by your side. You're amazing, I mean cool, I mean of course this place seems like a good fit without it. Inko laughed nervously. It doesn't matter if you have magic or not, you beat me. You're my equal, Izuku. Asmodeus said as he turned to the boy. He began tearing up. Oh, I've heard about your tears. Before you flood the room with very not waterproof equipment, do you mind putting the glass ball from before on top of the amplifier? Izuku nodded and went to place it on top of a giant bronze machine. If I calculated it correctly, this should gather all the mana and light up. Or it could explode and destroy everything in this room. Is it weird for me to say I'm desensitized to explosions of any kind by this point? Izuku asked as he backed up. That's a question I don't think anyone should be asking themselves at any point in their lives. Asmodeus sighed. I love it when things go boom, Clara cheered. Wow, it really is as lively here as I expected, Inko exclaimed. I'm so glad you crashed into me. She could get used to this lifestyle. Maybe they could try cliff diving tomorrow? Kiriwo was in awe at not one, not two, but 4 kohai that joined his battler. Not only that, they were so creative and smart to boot. In just one day they managed to fix up his entire supply of failed parts. Either through Inko's manuals, Valak's spatial awareness, Asmodeus' rationality, or Midoriya's massive input of magic interaction. And the best part so far was they worked strong, even with the lack of club space. It was amazing, so many capable students, all still fresh from the start of the new year, all stronger than him by a wide margin, and in spite of everything, they still chose his battler, and they put more than 100% into the very little they were given. Again, sorry about the lack of size, we don't usually get enough attention for anything bigger, it's actually shorter than last year. He showed off the little space their battler had approved for the festival. It barely had enough space to place a table, let alone big enough to show off anything he had laying around. I was lucky enough to still have a room for the battler. The upperclassmen started using it as a storage space. I'm more ashamed with the lack of decor than the lack of space. Did you really think placing it all together like this would be attractive? Asmodeus asked while gesturing to the pile. They might as well call it the junk pile battler. Which is why we're putting what's amazing in the front, what's okay in the back, and leaving the bad stuff in the room. Inko said as she lifted some boxes. Surprisingly strong, she must be used to carrying a lot. Yeah, but all of this stuff looks amazing. Midoriya complained as he picked through the pile of objects. All of this could really be useful for almost anyone to have, not just demons with low magic. If only there was a way to show off the uses of magical apparatus in a big way for people to notice. We need something that goes boom. Valak jumped around the clutter of apparati they placed down. Booms means something loud, and loud gathers attention. We need something that draws attention, something everyone can see. Inko muttered as she looked for flashy and distracting objects. We need something dazzling with a sense of beauty, such as my fire. Asmodeus imputed, showing off a bit of colored fire. Fascinating. Honestly, just anything we can use that works with our space would be fine enough. Kiriwo spoke, letting out a few coughs of BLD. Geez, he needs to sit down after this, can't overwork himself so soon. Lots of space, fire, attractive, boom. Midoriya muttered as he tapped idly on the ground. There has to be something that has all 4, something that everyone in the school can love, something so amazing that they'd be forced to pay attention to it, something like. He froze in place and slapped his head. Duh, it's obvious. Fireworks. What the heck was he talking about? Fireworks, he spoke with the other club members. This was odd. When Midoriya mentioned these light bulbs, apparati that ran on lightning rather than magic, he had a strong time believing him. Honestly, it sounded weird and unnatural. Who would use dangerous lightning when magic was more sane and logical? I'm afraid we're lost, Izuku. Asmodeus spoke with a tired but accepting groan. I'm assuming fireworks are something pretty common back where you're from. Really? You guys don't have fireworks either? Izuku looked at them as if they didn't have common sense here. No, sorry, I'm confused too. Inko shyly admitted. They sound amazing though. What do they do? Oh, they're basically big ball of fire flowers that go boom in the sky. And with that sentence he gathered the attention of everyone there. We just need some gunpowder and as is fire, then we can launch it high without needing the space, because nobody is using the sky, right? Yeah, big boom, let's light up the sky. Valak laughed happily as she began running around. That sounds like an amazing idea, except I'm not sure if I could make it with the supplies I have on me. Kiriwo spoke honestly. Also, there was the slight problem of setting the fast aviation battler on fire, but they were a couple of jerks regardless. It sounded like a creative and innovative idea nonetheless. Don't worry, I have a fair understanding when it comes to working with explosions. Izuku admitted, though he did it with a familiar face of pain he's seen way too many times on himself. It didn't take much to connect the dots when he told them the truth about his past. Velak immediately quieted down in an unusual display of calmness. Izuku-kins, we don't need to bring up bakugou if you... She started off. No, it's fine. Fireworks are actually pretty fun. I used to watch them as a kid with mom and dad. He muttered that last part bitterly. Interesting. Did his parents have some problem with him? His magiclessness? Their bond seemed to be growing even deeper every second they interacted. Wait, when did you learn about Kacha? You know what? Never mind. Something for another time. He cut himself short. Kacha, he heard Asmodeus mutter. Regardless, working with gunpowder will be tricky. We'll need time to get the mixing and results right. Not to mention that aside from you, all of us are basically working on concepts alone. Inko pointed out. And not to throw any doubts about the idea or anything. Do you think you can convey everything you know about it? How are they supposed to work and function? Oh, I can draw some pictures, Midoriya said, reaching into one of his notebooks, this one labeled apparatus creation, and started to scribble with incredible speed. Did an image pop into his head so fast? Even he had to take about half the day to fully develop a concept on paper. I've had a little practice sketching, mostly important figures I admire, but I hope having a little visual aid helps. He showed off the finished product, and it really was something to behold. Wow, Izuku, I didn't know you were such a great artist. Inko ran up to him in that lovey-dovey dance she seems to do when she thinks no one notices. It really looks like something out of this world. Izuku-kins is an awesome artist, Eye-string. He draws really cool stuff for me to make all the time, Velak spoke excitedly. That explains the weapons of mass destruction he's seen laying around from time to time. This firework does seem quite interesting. It seems with this we really can set the skies on fire. Asmodeus stated plainly, but the tiny corners of his mouth lifted just a little. Yeah, and the best part, we can shape it however we want, so each explosion can be something unique. Izuku gleamed so brightly it almost felt like stars were coming out of his eyes. We can make Dino explosions, Velak shouted with stars in her eyes. We can make rainbow explosions, Asmodeus grinned fairly. We can make Izuku explosions, everyone stared at Inko, who just blushed and whistled. What? Izuku's face would look pretty in the sky. Can't argue with logic. It actually scared him that Velak said that. Oh, look at that. The storage battlers actually got some janitors this time around. Someone snickered as they walked by. We'll stop by later when we have some trash to spare. Keep up the strong work. Thank you. Kiriwo replied back on instinct, waving cheerfully, something that made everyone around him grimace. You know they're making fun of you, right? Asmodeus stated the obvious. I know Izuku has this idea that we shouldn't waste time using magic in pointless scuffles, but you are allowed to retaliate. You are their senior after all. Yeah, we can cut them up with some axes and swords. Sabro Mountain has a bunch of them. Velak spoke with a small growl. I can try and sneak up on them and learn where they live, make it personal. Inko offered the team. No. Midoriya spoke, but he wasn't frowning like he did whenever they did something bad. We'll let them talk about us, call us weak, useless, pathetic. Then we'll light up the night sky as far as the eye can see, and when they least expect it, we'll take the spotlight. We'll show them that the pebbles they've been stepping on can be really sharp. We'll tell them all we are here. He smiled in a way that made Kiriwo's heart flutter. The way he worded that, you're surprisingly vindictive. Kiriwo smiled as Izuku, who sadly flinched a little at his wording and lost a bit of that angry spark. No, I'm not. At least, I don't try to be. Izuku explained himself, waving his hands a little. I don't want to hurt anyone, but I don't want to just be another carpet for them to walk all over. He huffed, a bit exhausted. I won't settle for the bottom when I can reach for the top. Never again. Yeah, Izuku-kins, we'll go plus ultra. Velak shook him from behind. Plus ultra? Inko asked. Apparently it means to give it your all, and then twice as much. Asmodeus explained. I do see the logic of it. Pushing past your limits is an exhilarating experience when done right. He smirked. At least now, I won't be at the receiving end of another fireball. Okay, let's do this. Plus ultra. Plus ultra, Inko compiled. The sight made Kiriwo smile. Izuku seemed to rally them all up easily and had them back him up with just as much vigor as him. He had a lot of potential. There were a lot of projects he had stored up, and someone like the honor student could possibly bring them to heights even he couldn't have imagined. Yes, he could tell, this year's division party would soon be the best one yet. Azazel Henry was a patient demon. As the head of border control, it was his duty to be constantly diligent of all crossings between the netherworld and the human world. Unsanctioned demons being summoned in contracts and the general illegal crossing over into the human world. Just one wrong move, one little slip, and both worlds would be sent into chaos. Humans themselves were beginning to become more and more difficult to control and maintain as time went on. Within the last 100 years or so, they've gone under multiple mutations, resulting in powers not too dissimilar to bloodline abilities. Quirks, as they now call them, were abilities still strange and abnormal to humans and demons alike. One good side to this was that it helped demons seem less supernatural, with anyone there claiming to be a demon to be called out as a nutjob and locked away for him to pick up later. Or that would be the case if they didn't keep vanishing. Unfortunately, instead of investigating, he was stuck with something equally important, but somehow more tedious. The food is the problem, spoke Behemoth, eating buckets of food like the pigeons they are. We keep overhunting and we're gonna run out of resources. The pink and fat demon spoke between gulps. Or you could stop eating it all and learn to starve yourself. Amerman snarked, growling with their wolf head. Besides, food is the least of our problems. Wicked phases keep happening due to the conditions of the world, they're getting harder to prevent. That isn't to mention also the constant illegal trafficking that's been happening more and more. Demons have become bolder and have started bringing items from the human world into the netherworld. Astero mentioned, and that was news Henry was painfully aware of at the moment. Fruits and other various foods from the human world sold big on the black market, not to mention weapons and a few vials of human BLD. It would be better if Asmodeus and Gracia could bother to attend every one in a while. He pointed to 2 empty chairs at the table. That's also bringing up the illegal crossing high-ranked demons have begun undergoing for various means. Henry brought up yet another issue. If it ended there, it would be no problem to wrap up, but more and more demons have been disappearing by the day, and we barely have any leads on where they go, or who's taking them. It's a pretty shame we have to rest our hands on that little duo up there and nobody else shows up to help it out. Payman spoke in her usual accent. One human and demon could only do so much, you know. For the love of Divi, it's been years, haven't you dropped the country bunkin talk yet? Ayman growled. I talk fine, unlike you imagine mutt, Payman countered. And at least I'm talkin' problems and not just on my light-up little phone twiddlin' thumbs. She spoke, pointing at the blonde known as Ball. Hey, I report problems, such as the need to increase security in vital areas that need protection. He retorted. And what's so bad about these illegal substances? Last I checked they help with the food problem. Astaroth stood, glaring at the sitting man. The problem is the lack of money fluctuating in the economy. Henry groaned internally. The crows were always like this, unable to decide what was most vital at the time and thus never acted, simply arguing while eating dinner. Why couldn't he be able to do something better, like hunting down anyone causing a panic, or looking after his sweet little princess? This would be so much better if we had a demon king on the throne. Beelzebub joined in on the conversation. It's been empty for far too long. One of the 3 great heroes has to take up the task now before any more chaos stirs up. You know, we could do that if the geezers up there actually started to pick one instead of doing what they usually do and just chat over some tea, Ball pointed out, which sadly was true. He once tried to listen into one of their conversations due to suspicion, and was sadly hit with disappointment at the potential demon kings. Or we could all choose 'em now, and just agree Sullivan Deary should be demon king. Payman pointed out. Out of all of them, he is practically the strongest and most powerful. The FCKU on about, the man's still a Tet 9. Obviously Belial is the most powerful and worthy. Ayman growled out. You just like the man 'cause he's a bleeding heart. If we're arguing over capability, then the title should go to Lord Levy. She's highly intelligent and a natural-born leader. Astaroth nodded, as if he just gave an entire speech about why she was worthy. Then they started throwing chairs. Great, It was going to be all night with these people. He got a notification. Looking down on his phone and seeing an anonymous tip about he froze. Henry made sure to read and reread over and over. A serious accusation from one high up to another. Excuse me, I must leave. He spoke to Beelzebub. An important matter has come up. Lord Belial stared at the fellow BSTRD and Beach in front of him. The time for games was over, as they glared, intense energy rolling off of them and filling the entirety of the 666th floor. They could never truly agree with one another, ideals and ambitions completely in the wrong. Enemies until death after all. Because there was a root problem they could never solve. All right, you two, let's get this SHT settled once and for all, Belial stated, the other two giving solemn nods. No more playing around. The big arguments must be brought out for this confrontation of ideals. Both he and Lord Levy slammed their hands onto the table in front of them, removing the hands to reveal, my grandson is the FCK cutest. Pictures of their grandchildren, of course. No global crisis or world war could compare. What the hell are you going on about? Lord Levy countered back at him. My grandson has the most achievements. Obviously that makes him the best. Achievements mean nothing if they have a heart of evil. He has your eyes, obviously, Lord Belial countered. Look at mine and his smile with the whittle hands. Clearly he's the best grandchild of them all. He scattered his pictures everywhere. Come on, Sullivan. It's your turn to pick a side. Who here has the best grandson? The amount of bodies they would go through just for the validation. Their usual third party and tiebreaker looked at them with the most seriousness they've seen on him in decades. Maybe he would figure out a way to keep a clear winner. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I can't be an impartial judge anymore. Why the hell not? You're so good at not picking a side. Lord Levy spoke with the same confusion he felt. Yeah, you pretty much sat out the last time the 13 crows blew up the lower floors. It was true, it took a while to sort out that little argument. Lord Sullivan gave them both an ominous chuckle as his glasses seemed to sparkle. Because you see, I'm no longer something as merely one of the great three lords. I have evolved from my past self and acquired, the old coot started, slamming his own hands on the table. A beloved grandson of my own. The BSTRD states with a maniacal laugh as pictures of an adorable green-haired boy were shown. What the hell? How's that possible? Last time I checked, you never had so much as a child, let alone a grandson. In fact, I don't even remember you ever dating anybody, Levy accused suspiciously. Double-check your facts, my dear sister from another mister, because I achieved not only a grandson, but an adorable daughter as well, he shouted, throwing down even more pictures. You son of a beach, Belial growled, and why not? The mother was fucking adorable. That wasn't fair in the slightest. This was purely a grandson contest. Don't bring other family members into this. How did you do it? They don't look much like you. Did you bribe them or something? No comment. Well, that was a dead end, and probably for the best. Good on him for finally getting some family in that lonely mansion. However, this brought forth another problem. We now don't have an impartial judge, Belial stated. Sad they would have to find a fourth person to find, let alone divide their hell's grey tea budget between 4 people. The demanity. We could always just ask one of the crows, Levy offered. The witch had a point. If they could just get one of them to the shouting downstairs seemed to have intensified. Nah, they seem busy, best we don't bother the work, Sullivan observed. True, it couldn't be that bad if nothing exploded yet. Though, since we don't have an impartial party anymore, maybe we should actually find someone to be the Demon King this time around. It would lead to a lot less complaining from the crows if we did. He threw it out there. Levi, are you interested? No, Demon King has such a nice ring to it. Let's not ruin it by calling me the Demon Queen. Livy spoke, now sipping some tea she mixed wine with. Never taught him the recipe, but he would find out. And I just got a grandson. I'm not going to miss out on the opportunity to play with him all day. Sullivan added in. Izuku's had a strong time in the past, so seeing him smile every day is the greatest joy I've ever felt. I don't want to miss a moment of him growing up. Well, that's understandable. You're a grandpa now, he said, completely understanding what the chair demon of Babley's was saying. I guess none of us are ready yet to take the throne. Yeah, I guess it's wait you never gave yourself an excuse, Levy complained. I'll take the throne when you two can pay back the money you owe me. Belial complained back. To no demon king, the BSTRD Sullivan cheered. Yep, the netherworld would just have to wait a little bit longer. The door slammed open with Henry and his guards. Lord Sullivan, you're accused of illegal access to the human world. You will be taken in for questioning. Oh, so the daughter and grandson were human. Well played, you sly coot. Inko hummed to herself, looking over some notes. The demon's equivalent of Parents' Day was down the line. She barely came to these due to her job in their last life, but now she would be there for him. The phone began ringing, Opera going to answer it. They really should let her do some things. They looked so busy all the time. Even now the servant was playing video games with Izuku using nothing but a tail. Hello? They asked, and there was slight shouting heard from where she was, but nothing she could pick up immediately. So, how long is your sentence? What? Inko interrupted. What's going on? Is that Papa? Where is he? Oh, Mr. Sullivan is going to prison. Would you like me to put him on speaker? They asked with such deadpan you could mistake it for asking if you want toppings on a pizza. Yes, please do that, Inko pleaded with the butler, who only nodded in response. Papa, why are you going to jail right now? Hello there, dear. Sorry for the trouble. The Border Patrol has this crazy assumption that somehow I illegally broke through border control and brought humans over from the human world. Can you believe that? He asked as her heart dropped. But didn't you do just that? Opera asked. What were they doing? The police could have wiretapped the phone. What they don't have evidence on they can't prove. Papa muttered into the phone. You just confessed, sir. Well, they don't know that. Besides, my summoning was perfectly within reason. Obviously, someone's trying to set me up. Don't worry, we'll make sure to hold the fort down and nothing goes wrong while you're gone. Inko says, trying to keep calm and not worry her father. I'll be sure to keep everyone in check. Oh, I'm mostly worried about my poor little Izuku-kun. He must be devastated that I've been gone as long as I have, he shouted. She and Opera took one look at Izuku, who for once had dropped his guard to relax, and had headphones on playing an online game with Opera. Yes, Papa, he's worried, but he understands completely. Inko spoke in a completely even tone. She didn't want him to try and break out to spend time with him. He's been crying to see you all morning. Oh, I hope he's all right. I don't want him to pass out from dehydration. Yes, best to have two of the best things in her life live in obliviousness for now. I'll be sure to clear everything up before the festival, and we can have a whole day out as a family. All right, love you, Papa. We'll count the minutes till your arrival, she sweetly told him before hanging up. Okay, Opera, be real with me. How serious is this? Well, on the off chance they can prove it true, the situation may take a turn for the worse. But the evidence barring you two and Hisashi has been scrubbed. Besides, with a lack of Demon King, there's only two other people on the planet that have any chance of containing Mr. Sullivan. I suppose that's comforting, I guess. Inko shrugged in acceptance. It wasn't like there was anything she could do at the moment. All we can do is just wait for him, right? Pretty much. Knowing my MSTR's luck, they'll only hold him for questioning before letting him go. Not much they can do against the chair demon, after all. Good, I'm glad he'll be all right at least. Inko breathed easily, looking back to her son playing his game. Just make sure to not tell Izuku about any of this. He has all his focus on his batter's presentation. No need to put more worries in his head. Not the first secret I've kept, they stated. No one knows about the cactus incident after all. She pushed down the curiosity, feeling it's better not to know. All right, time to brainstorm. A cool idea. Diamenit, that's what these guys were supposed to do, except the president was too focused on preserving the little fire Asmodeus left behind, as well as a lock of his hair. Weirdo. Maybe we could work on portal theory into other dimensions, one student suggested. Except that we don't have enough comprehension on spatial coordinates to prevent us from opening a one-way trip to the void. What if we work on magic-proof items, walls and glass that are completely impervious to magic altogether? You're talking about anti-magic. Really? That's as made up as humans. Okay, hear me out. Alchemy. Everyone turned to that one battler mate, who was then punched strong enough to leave a black eye. Right, my bad. Would you keep it down? Guys, Persevering Asmodeus's mana from this flame is a delicate process, the president shouted to all of them. If I just had a little more data, I could potentially extract it. Extract. He may be onto something actually. Jazz spoke up as others turned to him. What about an extraction spell? I know a lot of metals like gold that would be really valuable if they could be made purer. They started muttering. Well, that does sound like a nice direction to enter, but what would we extract? Not everyone cares that much about gold. Those sick BSTRD. If only Izuku's little gang wasn't scared off. Maybe the honor student could have reasoned with these eggheads a little better with that notebook of his. It needs to be something on a basic level. Survival, that appeals to everyone, right? Well, we can't extract food, that's just stupid. What about water? That's in a lot of rocks and would give a nice and fresh amount. Now they were getting somewhere. Water could be sold if people were stupid enough to not drink from fountains. Then an explosion occurred as everyone sighed. Another apparatus boom. Seriously, what's the point of technology and science when you can simply use magic? Lyde worked strong on the coding. It needed to have fast reaction time, very fast. Revolutionary technology that would change the world itself. Many may have thought he was lazy, spending almost every waking moment playing video games, but little did they know that all this time, he was studying how to make them as well. It may have been to search for missing objects and cheat codes after finishing, but he did it all the same. For now, he had the power of unlimited creativity. Their president had a revolutionary idea, a reality inside of the video game. It was crazy and never thought possible. But by Divi, he would get it to work with everything he had. Hours upon hours, coding it to match the controls on the prototype. If they got it to work right, then it would be the gateway to an endless world of possibilities. An entire virtual world where imagination was the control, where anything could happen, where anyone could do anything regardless of who they were or where they came from. Wow, this truly is unbelievable. A handful of students cheered, and he was inclined to believe it. Nothing like this could have ever existed before, and there would be nothing like. Izuku's running interrupted the train of thought as he passed the battler room, carrying a bunch of supplies as he blinked at the prototype. Oh, VR, cool. The green-haired kid commented as he continued running. Sorry, I have to grab a few things for my battler. Good luck with your system. I can see you're pretty close to making it work. It took a lot of willpower for the president to not just smash all their battlers' work into nothing once Izuku not only ran despite what he did last time, but somehow knew what they were going to do with just a glance. He was smarter than he looked. Maybe they were too strong on him for what happened. Then again, it was a TV Clara broke, so maybe this just balanced things out between them. It was fairly simple to be in the succubus battler. It was a battler all about learning to show off one's beauty and sexiness, so obviously they already had half the work done just by existing. And she didn't want to brag, but just a simple pose got most boys down on their knees. All they needed was a stage, a few provocative clothes, and decent lighting, and over half the school would be praising them within 5 minutes. Who knows, maybe she'll come across that special someone once it's all over. Okay girls, now we're going to work in a relaxing setting. Everyone will take their positions, partner up and learn to be SNSL on the target in question. Rame MSTRS spoke up. A key note to remember is that not everyone is enticed by the same scenarios, nor will a certain type provoke the same results every time. Prey can be surprisingly picky even with the most sexy of ladies coming up to them. She nodded, each had their own taste. Potential husband #3 seemed to prefer active girls, given potential CNCBNB and President Azazel hung around him often. Potential husband #2 seemed to prefer anyone with a demon queen quality, or just anyone cool in his books. And potential husband #1 seemed to like, well, she wasn't sure, but maybe potential husband #8 wasn't far off given the fact he always seemed to stare at potential husband #3. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting anything important, right? A small blonde-haired demon that looked vaguely familiar walked up. Sorry, I've been running through battlers all day trying to find supplies. I have to make sure Izuku's plans go off without a hitch. Would you look at that? Any more girls and potential husband #3 would go down a rank. Well, #4 didn't seem that bad. He did seem very happy with his games. He likely played a dating sim before. Hey, I said I would come here. Eye string. Potential CNCBNB came showing that lovely vigor she's been showing off more and more lately. I need to make sure to stay sexy before another harpy sinks her claws into Izuku-kin's. What? You're trying to be sexy for? The little blonde cute girl shuddered. But he saved me. I'm like his princess to his knight. Well, I'm his best friend. We play games all the time, the green-haired girl shouted back. And I'll sick Connor and Murph on you and anyone else that gets in the way. I'm the reason he got the chance to be a hero. I'll throw myself into any kind of danger because I know he'll save me. See, one girl was fine, but too many CNCBN and you get civil war for affection. Truly a pity. Why couldn't an orgy ever be a valid option? This, ladies, is why we haven't talked about commitments yet. Rame MSTRS spoke. When you're younger you always end up fighting about it. Truly bright passions can more often than not burn those you mean to care for. You should learn how to handle one relationship before extending your hand to another. HRM are another case entirely, but on occasion, they're known to work. When they do, however, it can lead to something appealing. Elizabetta nodded, taking this information in. She would learn and grow, no longer taking advanced steps. She would be ready when the time came. He's mine. Both girls began fighting over the item they came for. Looks like that time would be a while for potential husband #3. Maybe when he is ready, she'll join as well. Paisro yawned, not paying attention as they droned on about chemicals and medicine. He didn't want to join one, but Caligo and Midoriya were insistent about it. Not to mention Gomen, the BSTRD. Not many options allowed him to gather enough sleep. Too many of them required him to move in some way. That's why he took the pharmaceutical studies battler. It was mostly a bunch of talking about medicine or something and making it whenever they had something. They really didn't require him to do much, mostly just hold empty vials, which he did easily with his clouds. It was a fair trade-off. He got to sleep, and they got an extra cabinet of storage. Win-win. It didn't concern him that Asmodeus came in demanding a bunch of chemicals he didn't know. It wasn't his business when the other refused, and he absolutely couldn't care less when Asmodeus summoned his flames, blew up a beaker, and set the whole room on fire. He fell asleep by the time someone came in with a fire extinguisher, not minding the smoky fumes. Sure, people got worried that he was asleep the entire time for medical reasons, but he was already putting his health first above anything. After all, getting enough sleep was important for any growing demon. We need something important for the division party. What about sleeping medicine? One student asked, as Paisro suddenly felt an unholy level of rage. Sleeping medicine. The same kind that can cause nightmares, that ruins the lull in between wakefulness and unconsciousness, the kind that causes medical problems. The ground rumbled with fury as everyone looked particularly scared. They should be. Sleep is the most sacred of times for anyone. Without sleep, nothing can function. Without sleep, your body builds up stress, and that can cause weight gain, rashes, paranoia, and you're trying to torment everyone with a brew of chemicals that'll make their lives worse. He rose above them, more awake now than he ever was. Eventually, he stopped as they all stared at him with terror. If you want something, I suggest something with absolutely no side effects or negatives that harm the body, or something that helps dire situations quickly. And with that, he laid back down. The minute he got worked up, it was going to be impossible to go to sleep soon. I thought he was the reasonable guy of the misfit class. They're all misfits, they're crazy no matter what. Ah, mindless muttering, the perfecting sleeping aid. Maybe he should sit next to Midoriya in class. With all his droning, he could sleep for a week straight. Soy needed to win the next one. The man in front of him always lost. Statistically, if he bested him no one would notice, but if he lost everyone would. He needed to not be noticed. It was fine. Midoriya barged in, looking a bit lost, but he didn't see him, so it was fine. He asked around, everyone giving him dirty looks for interrupting the games, but it was fine. He got in the way of an upcoming match, and the students looked ready to PND him to dust. It was fine. Midoriya shouted at them to look out a window, which revealed nothing, except it was just a distraction for Midoriya to jump out another window and possibly break something of his. It was fine. He heard the sound of Asmodeus yelling at him for being reckless, but it was fine. He heard some voice he's never heard before talk about cliff diving together with him, so he guessed it was fine. Soy had to lose the next match, even though he could have won with facial expressions, because the guy he was up against never lost. It was fine. She chanted spells, not forbidden ones, those were reserved for seniors. She wasn't some crazy reckless rule breaker that sought attention. No, so was the quiet girl that blended into the background. But even then she felt herself snap ever so quietly whenever Midoriya was seen, or when his name was heard. She felt the darkness grow more and more. She had to ditch it. She couldn't fall into a wicked phase. So she joined the Black Magic Battler. It was friendly enough, and they had a strong sense of community. Sunday Pie was the bomb thanks to Jackin. She wasn't jealous of that honor student. She had no longing to strangle him when he corralled the entire class into his shenanigans. No, that was the old Kurori. The current Kurori vented every single frustration she's ever felt into the dark arts. She's never felt better in her life. So what if she cursed the Battler president on her first attempt? So what if she had a habit of sewing voodoo dolls unconsciously and couldn't get approval to have them work officially? It was the best time of her life since she started attending Beyblades. All that mattered was that she had people who understood getting out one's inner darkness into a form of magic that shouldn't be touched. And why shouldn't it be touched? It was fun and amazing to work with. Now, if only she had the chance to corner that danger junkie and curse his entire line and make him suffer the wrath of 1,000 suns. No, she was better than this. She was better than this. She would get him out of her mind. Even as he did everything to upstage people, even as he constantly brought danger and weird terms, even as he was right outside the window with his gang working on something. Wait. You sure we have everything we need right here? An upperclassman, most likely the president of whatever battler the Insanity Posse joined, asked as they carried a lot of junk. Of course, the ingredients are fairly simple, but we need the right chemical compounds so we can shape the explosions however we want. Luckily, Az was able to acquire some from the pharmaceutical battler before it blew up. It was their fault, I asked nicely, and they refused. And how bad was their refusal to warrant setting it on fire? Said anybody who didn't join them was a moron not worthy of mixing hydrogen and oxygen. You get one pass on that. All right then, what's next? We were able to acquire all the decorations from the succubus battler. Some blonde she vaguely remembered seeing before answered. They were actually quite nice about it. Getting it was no problem. Then why did you and Clara come back with your clothes torn and your hair frazzled everywhere? Velak whistled to conceal the little innocence she had in her. Playtime got a little too rough today. Who are you and what did you do to Velak? Asmodeus asked probably the most important question she's ever heard one person utter. Great job guys, we couldn't have done it without you. The blonde blushed while the greenie cheered. Ah great, the honor student had another one wrapped around his finger. If he wasn't in all honesty such a nice guy to every girl he's talked to, she would have sent a spike through his head for playing with their hearts. And with the equipment I was able to get from the gaming battler, we should be able to launch it without problem. And I worked with the chemical mixes beforehand, so I should have it down. The upperclassman said while coughing BLD. How have you even survived this long? Asmodeus asked probably the second most important question she's ever heard one person utter. Oh, my bloodline magic makes invisible barriers. You can't put a scratch on me. He laughed as Izuku's eyes sparkled. That's amazing, Amy-san. That's such an amazing ability to have. Are you able to shape it in any way you want? What about pressure? Could you pressurize the air on the inside? Oh, maybe with the right shape, you could make an air cannon. This Amy-san answered with the same speed Izuku answered. Oh my god, there were two of them, just her luck. Everyone else just stared at the duo baffled. That's quite the analysis of my bloodline. Amy-san smirked while adjusting his classes. I haven't put that much thought into how I use it. With how weak I am, I mainly focus on protecting myself. That's a shame. With all the explosions you've survived through, it's obviously very strong. You shouldn't close yourself off from the chance just because everyone else tells you otherwise. She saw the older boy smile a little, and for a brief second, she thought that the honor student wasn't such a bad guy. You don't have to worry anymore about anyone else. Once we light up the sky, everyone will notice. We'll take the spotlight together. Forget it. He was a dirty danger-prone chaos-driven adrenaline-seeking gloryhound show-off that need to die a painful. "Ah, Kurori-chan, is that you?" said Gloryhound asked from below, and sure enough, everyone from that battler noticed her. "Aw CRP, did she say that out? Wait. Kurori-chan? What? Since when did he refer to her with such a cute nickname? Since when were we on a first-name basis?" she yelled back down. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you or anything," he yelled back, shaking his signature shake. "Huh, since when did anyone consider her dangerous? All she did was stab a few students during the rookie hunt, nothing more than what anyone else did. I was just trying to be nice." "Well, stop it. Not everyone wants to be your friend, like she'd join the Calamity cult in any instance. It obviously drained anyone of their brain power." "Hey, we can still hear you," the blonde yelled at her. SHT, all of Midoriya's mutters were starting to affect her too. I mean, she does raise a point about your ick dropping by hanging around this group. Asmodeus muttered to himself. "Please, your Q is just fine." Velak spoke obliviously. "That sentence alone raises so many red flags." Inko muttered. "You know what? Forget I was here. Just leave me out of everything you're doing," she stormed off. She was going to make another voodoo doll tonight, just to get the satisfaction of tearing the honor student's head off, whether it happens in real life or not. Although, no one has ever used honorifics for her name of all things, at least for her real name, except Grandma that one time, but her family gave the women weird looks afterwards. Did the danger junkie actually like? "Stupid, just because you have a cute face doesn't mean you get to ag. Where did that come from?" he was getting in her brain. She needed to cleanse tonight with the detoxification ritual. It was meant to cure one from negative energy, but she felt this was close enough. They were supposed to be working on the fireworks, gathering materials, and resting. Asmodeus learned he was right earlier. He was losing ick for thinking they could follow step 3, especially if he expected Velak of all people to calm down for a single moment. "Pillow fight, Velak," sending a storm of thankfully soft pillows towards their direction. Soon enough, the entire battler was drowning in the white fluffiness. "Come on, nighttime fun is the best kind of fun, except when we have fun during the day." "So fun is just fun no matter what time it is?" Izuku joked badly, but it still stifled some laughs from the rest of the group. Inko in particular laughing harder than anybody reasonably should. "Huh, this is actually my first sleepover without Gakko. We used to do this all the time before Beyblades. I guess I didn't think I'd ever have more than one friend in my life." Inko laid across the sea of pillows. "This is actually my first sleepover in general." Amy-san poked his head up from the fabric. "Mine as well, nobody ever asked before." Asmodeus spoke as everyone turned to him. "Seriously, no one?" Izuku spoke with a tilted head. "No, everyone came up to me and said, and I quote, 'remove the stick coming out of my butt and maybe we'll consider it.' I lit them on fire after that, obviously, and no one else has asked ever since." Have you considered that maybe lighting things on fire isn't always the option?" Izuku asked him. "Yeah, sometimes using blunt force works well too." The Velak giggled. "Okay, have either of you considered violence isn't always the go-to option?" He received a round of blinks from literally everyone in the room. "Never mind. So then, pillow fight?" "Pillow fight," Inko cheered, clinging to Izuku's arm. "We need teams. Obviously I'll be with Izuku." "No, I'm with Izuku-kins." Velak clung to his other arm. "You're not even in the same class." "How about I stay back and be the ref, so nobody fights?" Izuku asked to try and appease them. Asmodeus saw opportunity. "No, it's clear that this challenge needs a fair and honest party to keep everything on track, and as such, I elect myself to be the referee." "Oh come now, how can you have fun if you referee?" Amy-senpai said. "Besides, I know you and Midoriya like throwing stuff at each other." True, throwing a pillow in Izuku's face sounded therapeutic, and maybe he'd get minor revenge for the execution cannonball. His face still ached whenever he smiled. "Well, I guess there's only one viable option left on the table," Inko said darkly, clenching the pillow in her lap, before shoving it in his face. "Free for all, every demon for themselves." And that was her first mistake. "Well then, prepare for full retaliation," he shouted, throwing a fire pillow at the girl as she screamed, ducking down, and Izuku once again flung himself at her, though this time, he managed to actually dodge the fire. ass. Remember what I keep saying about wasting magic? Izuku scolded him, forgetting that he was on top of the blonde girl. Oh, I remember. However, this is simply recreational magic. Nothing rocket or blue-based. He smirked as Izuku paled. Okay then, allow me to. Izuku cut himself off, pausing. Why is this pillow stuck? Ep, he froze, looking down while somehow looking pale and flushed simultaneously. His hand was firmly gripping an area of her chest that was rather vulgar to describe in length. Izuku, Sorry, he screamed, jumping off her and burying his hand in the sand, or rather, pillows placed on the ground. Sorry. You happy? Valak shouted, turning he would see her making a bye-bye make pillow catapult, something that would be the death of him if he didn't dodge. I can't breathe, he shouted, drowning in fabric once more. Why, I didn't get. You know what you did, Azaz? You're going to pay for not throwing that fire pillow at me, huh? She was making less sense than usual. Whatever, if she wanted a fire pillow, she would get one. He began lobbing them like bombs as the girl jumped around, giggling. Stay still, Valak. Never, I'm invincible, she roared to the sky as she cackled atop of her pillowy mound like a villain out of some storybook, before being knocked off by the upperclassmen. Wait, how were you? Izuku questioned, before P&D his hand in his palm. Oh right, your barriers. Is it really that instantaneous? Yeah, no matter how big or small the danger, my barriers act practically on instinct. Nothing can touch me. He coughed off more BLD. Well, most of the time. Asmodeus was feeling an adrenaline rush, now grabbing more. Trust me when I say before my eyes close, you'll all be hit. Not this time, vengeance will be mine. Inko came up from behind and P&D him with her pillow over and over again. It didn't hurt, but the constant repeated motions forced him to the ground. You'll regret ever trying to hurt Izuku. What's with her and Valak's obsession with Izuku lately? Yeah, he was nice, but there had to be a limit somewhere. His train of thought was interrupted as a stray pillow from an impishly grinning Izuku was thrown. He gave a feral smirk and started throwing them in earnest, a feeling in his chest welling up. This was fun. Eventually, everyone, and thankfully that included Valak too, actually managed to tire themselves out after a few hours. Everyone breathed heavily, small brows of sweat covered their foreheads. Wow, we really spent all that time doing something so silly. Asmodeus admitted, still grinning. I feel like a fool, but I don't regret it. I think that's what having fun is all about. Inko laughed. Gakko and I used to do stuff like this all the time. I mean, we still do, but she's more focused on ranks at the moment, so I guess life in general kind of got in the way. Life is all about having fun. There's no difference between them, Valak gave her own answer. My brothers and sisters do stuff like this all the time back home. It's never a dull moment around home with mommy. He suddenly got a dark foreboding feeling at the thought of any more Valaks in the world. Yeah, this is the best sleepover I ever had. Izuku chimed in next, and once again, all eyes fell on him. What? You've actually been to a sleepover before? Asmodeus asked him, somehow feeling defeated. I just assumed from everything about you that you've never. No, I mean, I don't anymore, but at one point I did. It was just me and Kachan. Izuku spoke, now looking out the window. We used to stare at posters of this great hero and talk about how cool he was before we went to sleep. Before that we just played card games based around heroes. Hero fixation. Right, wanted to be one. Why wouldn't he have one? Did that mean he was a fanboy of his own grandfather? It seems you were really close with Kachan. Amy-senpai spoke, shuffling in his bed with interest. I was, but it got different. I guess he was just mad. Mad that I couldn't keep up with them. Mad that I still wanted to be a hero even growing up without power. His eyes grew dark. He was Katsuki Bakugou, the next #1 hero, and I was just Deku. Deku? Inko asked curiously. Defenseless Izuku. That's what it means. Powerless, worthless, nobody. Izuku spoke out bitterly. But that changed when I got here. People like me, I have power, I have this. He held up his badge. A way to grow, to become better than my old self. And where do you end up? Asmodeus asked, Izuku turning to him. After being a hero, what then? Izuku paused, looking up. I think I'll help Amy-senpai with their ambition. Help equalize demons, remove the concept of ranks. He muttered. Just make a world where anyone can be a hero and see people smile. Asmodeus was just flabbergasted by it all. Izuku, by all means, should be demanding compensation for everything he's been through. He should be demanding vengeance from all of his tormentors and force them through an even worse hell he's been through. He should crave that anyone who's ever doubted him be beneath his boots and lick at his heels. But all he wanted was for everyone to smile. That's... he stumbled to say. Izuku, for whatever reason, only sought fairness. Maybe the problem wasn't him. Maybe the problem was every other demon. Demons who sought to beat those that couldn't help themselves. Demons who loaded their power over everyone else. Demons like Asmodeus. That's an amazing ambition to have, Izuku. Inko, the girl he's almost killed on loose footing, completed his thoughts for him. I'll be sure to smile bigger than anybody once we light up the sky. No, I'm going to be smiling bigger than anyone else. That's my entire thing, Veilok argued back. Izuku-kins, you're going to be an amazing hero that makes everyone smile. You've already helped me there. She leaned on him. You've helped me as well, I suppose. Asmodeus relented, keeping a small smile. I didn't equate having fun with ranking up at all, and all this time, I just assumed you were just this delinquent troublemaker. I'm truly sorry. Enough with that, there's nothing to apologize for now. He gave him that smile, that reassuring smile he knows deep in his heart he didn't deserve. We should get some rest now. We have a big night ahead of us tomorrow. Yeah, you should all get some sleep. Kiriwo got up, heading for the door. My brother wants me to check in with him before the big day. Just wants to make sure I have everything ready. Everyone nodded and let him be as the lights were turned off. It didn't take long before light snoring could be heard across the room, as one by one, everyone drifted into the world of dreams. All the while, he realized he's finally found the answer to the question he's asked himself since the start of the school year: who was Izukumidoriya? Izukumidoriya was just a good person. Kamekam sat at his register, waiting for the next customer. Double-checking all his products, the food and gear all set up to perfect display and quality. The TV overhead SWCH channels, displaying one of the school broadcasts. The festival was coming up, which met a lot of hungry students and parents lining up for his products, as well as desperate students looking for items at the last minute because they wasted all the time they were given. Truly, it was the best time for business. My, I've got some lovely new students to join my battler. The plant teacher prattled in an obviously televised way. Seriously, add some flair to your work. Maybe, but you see, my new students are superior in every way. Spoke the torture teacher, somehow even more cheesy. DMN, don't ruin the possible rewards. Silence. Caligo spoke up, making every teacher shut up. Good. Needed to keep the mind on business. This isn't the time to focus on bragging rights. With that fool Sullivan being kept away at the moment, for some reason, it falls on me to be acting chair demon. Wow, such a great honor. You must feel really special to be chosen by Sullivan himself for such an important job. The annoying newbie embrace but, reminded him too much of imp-ish Steeler Girl. You don't think Sullivan actually did anything wrong, right? He couldn't have. It's all a big mistake, Rig. The annoyance's face was grabbed and flung across the room. Ha. Now then, let's get on with the competition itself. Caligo spoke, ignoring the screams of the newbie and the motions of the cameraman on screen. On Parents' Day, you will bring your best and most stunning displays in an attempt to gain the most votes. And this year, we don't just have the top award. The torture teacher spoke on, as cameramen still tried to pry the newbie free from the cold claws of Caligo. We have awards for the top 3 battlers. First up, the You Did Your Best Award for 3rd place. The plant teacher spoke, the screen changing to show off a nice-looking room, 5 stars for sure. The battler will get a new and improved clubroom fit with the best of the best. He could hear students muttering, some actually thinking it would be better for 3rd instead of just 1st. There we go, rank up that wanton longing to try strong and get the parents spending money. Next, the Wow Award. The newbie teacher spoke as the display changed to a bunch of objects. Whoever gets this will have their battler budget increased, along with one of the objects of their choosing. I'm surprised you managed to get this, Chiligo? More screaming was heard in the background. Even more muttering was heard, along with some exclamations. And finally, the grand prize. The Torut teacher took the mic again. What's this? The president will go up 2 whole ranks, and everyone else in said club will go up 1 rank. And that was the straw on the camel's back as the student body roared with excitement and frenzy. Ugh, so annoying. So messy. They better buy a lot of items today to make this worth it. Excuse me, sir. He turned. The green-haired boy came by. I'm kinda running out of notebooks again, sorry. Could I get some more? Huh. The honor student was an associate with a stealer, so that made him want to stab him, but he's also one of the best customers he's had. He's never sold more notebooks in a week than any other year. Maybe retirement was possible with this job after all. Yeah, same price as usual. He spoke, sliding some over along with a small pack of pencils. The boy put down the money, along with some extra. Hey kid, it's not that much, he spoke. Oh, well I know Clara causes you a lot of trouble, so I wanted to pay you back as a sorry. What? No one said sorry to him. Always take without regret. Was empathy actually a thing with this kid? That should probably cover everything she replicated, at least for this week. Kamekam stared down at the money even as the boy walked away. Maybe he'd give the boy a discount next time around. God, that felt weird to think. Oh, it was finally your turn, huh? A janitor walked past him. Yeah, the honor student is weird like that. Wherever we get word about the misfits causing a mess, he usually has most of it covered before we get there. Sure saves us a lot of LBR. I'd hire him if he wasn't still a student. There was a crash. Diamenet, rowdy students and their food wars. HM felt guilty enough to fix their own mess. Opportunity was here. He wasn't one to turn down free LBR. But how to work it out? Ah, Gabuko-san, this is great, Kiriwo muttered in his comfort zone. We can finally do it. I didn't think it was possible, but Izuku showed me some things I never thought possible. Yes, Izuku, that boy was amazing. He analyzed magic on the spot and was able to point out things he kept hidden. And to think, it's all possible thanks to one magicless demon, someone even more pitiable than me. He could only imagine the type of hardship his little Kohai had to face. Sure, being weak was one thing, but powerless, less than a thud, something fundamentally useless on every single level. Yet not only did he gather 3 other impressively stronger underlings to support himself, but managed to understand the world better than anybody else. Kiriwo smiled as his heart skipped a beat. It'll be strong to pinpoint him in the chaos, but I really hope I get to protect him. He should live. He shook his head. What am I saying? I should get back to work, Gabuko-san. Some wires get messed up, and this ends up exploding in our faces all over Agai. The door opened. The secret door that was never meant to be opened was opened. You know, in a castle-like place such as this, I'm surprised I didn't stumble into his secret room earlier. His Kohai idly muttered. Kiriwo-san, what are you doing here? I didn't stumble into anything private, right? This was too early. He needed to buy time. Set up a story. Oh, this is my little private room. Found it in my 2nd year, so I decided to keep all the really important stuff here. You never know which demons would like to screw over your work for the fun of it, especially one who can't fight back. Kiriwo started with a weak chuckle. Izuku raised a brow, probably a bit taken back by the little bite he added to his tone, but shrugged nonetheless. Right, sometimes I keep forgetting just how cruel the world can be. Back home, I almost never had a moment's peace. How did you find this place? He felt the need to ask. It wasn't like the kid just tapped every brick he came across. I was looking for you, then my ring started to drag me all over the place. Barely had the time to steady myself so I wouldn't hit anyone. Right, the ring, that would be a problem. Kiriwo realized something. This was an opportunity, something he could show Izuku. How about I show you something? He smiled, removing the curtain behind him. Just promise you won't tell anyone, it'll ruin the view. Down there, behind the window, the courtyard where all demons gathered and conversed could be seen. Wow, they're all so small from here, Izuku muttered. Yes, small, weak, pitiable, less than the dirt they walked on. One could feel on top of the world from this height. Makes me think about how we've been able to accomplish so much in such little time. It's thanks to you, you know, Kiriwo stated, causing the Kohai to turn with curious and innocent eyes, more innocent than they should have been with what they've been through. When they go off, when we soar higher, we can become better than we were before. We can make the world down there the same as up here, where everyone looks the same. If Kachon or anybody else I knew from before heard that, he'd laugh before throwing an explosion to your face. Izuku chuckled hollowly. I've been called plain looking for all my life. Nobody could even be paid to ever be like me. It's funny, really. He stared down below. Actually having people caring about you. Even my mother, bless her heart, struggled with my weakness. Felt so worried for her kid, she couldn't find the strength to tell me it was okay. Ah, so he was a reject from even his own family. They became more alike every second. Don't worry, Midoriya, we'll take away the concept of ranks from those at the top. And your fireworks will be the first step to doing so. No one will have to suffer like we have. It was true, soon the very concept of ranks would be a thing of the past. And will make everyone smile doing so. That sent a thorn into his gut. This kid's priorities were a little messed up. Yes, we'll bring smiles to everyone. And then take that joy and replace it with something more elegant. Saburo tapped his desk as everyone ran around screaming. Seriously, it was just Parents' Day, not the apocalypse or something. From his side he's got his sister. His brother was a no-show as usual, and his father didn't do anything. Not like he cared about the old BSTRD. My sister is going to show up. She's going to embarrass me completely. Just stab me now. Lied muttered. Not literally. He quickly added as many students put away their bladed weapons. It can't be as unfortunate as you make it out to be. My father plans to arrive as well. Gomen brought up as he sheathed his blade. He plans on dueling every teacher he comes across. He believes the best way to learn another's character is to fight them to the death. Oh, so your father is a Sabnok. Jazz spoke. Saburo retaliated with a hardened glare. Does thou seek to tell that to my face? He asked, as the thief immediately backed down. Just a joke, big guy. I'm getting a little nervous about it myself. Jazz defended. My folks can't make it, but the BSTRD I call my brother is coming. Knowing him, he's just going to take everything I've collected for himself. It's totally uncool. Ah, he could relate to uncool brothers. You just took a teacher's wallet as you were talking. Kami pointed to the small leathery square in the tall teen's ringed fingers. Yeah, but he's taking my stuff. That's not cool, man. Jazz complained. Fair enough. As a demon, it was his right to take what he wanted. That's why he gave the same advice to Velak. My mom will show up. She'll love most of the stuff. And Grandpa, he'll just make a big deal out of stuff. Izuku spoke while cringing. Actually, you might want to pack a few raincoats. The two of them together can create a national disaster out of their tears alone. What about you, Az? Oh, I like to play a little game with my mother. She does her best to show up. I stop her by any means necessary, no matter how many bodies pile up. I don't care how much altruism you spout, Izuku. I won't change my stance on that. Asmodeus spoke with a proud nod. So, you're just a big meanie to everyone. As, Velak chanted. My whole family's showing up, except for Daddy. He's still out collecting a bunch of fun stuff. But that still leaves Mommy, Kibo, Kanchai, Sin, and Ran. There's so much fun. I was worried about your situation just for your parents. How much do they have to do for so many children? Asmodeus asked, seemingly looking like he'd seen a specter of sorts. Don't just say stuff like that. Seriously, we need to place a filter over your mouth if you're going to be nicer to others. Izuku admonished him. Clara, I'm sure your family will be lovely. They're all just like me, she cheered loudly. Okay, maybe he needs a filter, but she needs a collar. Lyde spoke with a bit of sweat. He had a point. One person climbing Saburo Mountain was okay, he didn't need an army doing it. Looks like Midoriya has his hands full just taking care of the two of them. How can anybody handle having more than one friend? Okay, I know what I said on the first day, but being a friend is not about being a servant, Asmodeus challenged. It's about... Silence. Caligo interrupted the boy before he got started. Now then, let's go over the rules and schedule for the division party. He didn't notice Asmodeus pout in despair, simply grinning. His Demon King play would rule. Clara played with a ping-pong ball. Waiting around was so boring. Even arguing with Az and Istring was getting old. At some point, she was just able to get them to argue with each other. I'm telling you, pink! Pink is the best color for the canon, Az pouted on and on about. What other color could stand out more on a night like this? Just because you have cotton candy hair doesn't mean it's the best color, Istring fought back, holding back some sort of vile thing. Green is the way to go here. No color represents our leader better. Since when is Izuku our leader? Since we became his friends. That means we're equal, not below him. I personally think red is a nice shade to work with. Izuku spoke. No, Clara shouted. Red was the color of Lady Red Hair. We need blue, like Kirame-senpai, she shouted randomly, even for her. She would have said green too, but even she was getting tired of the back and forth. He's in charge here, right? Maybe we should do something nice for him. They all stopped arguing. You know, you're right. We'll start out with blue for the big one. Izuku-kins grinned wildly. Thanks, Clara. Nice to have someone as level-headed as you around. Az then stopped moving. In fact, he stopped breathing altogether. His face was turning blue. Guess he agreed with her. Ah, guys, I think we broke Asmodeus. Someone, get some medicine, or perform the Heimlich. Should we give him logic? Izuku-kins muttered, now confused about the situation. Clara, say something you'd usually say. Every day we should all be kaboom. Az's face returned to its usual pasty color. Whoa, I had this horrible dream that Velak was the most rational person out of all of us. Yes, it was a dream. It was a crazy dream. Istring talked to him like he was a mental hospital patient. Fun, they should play this game more often. Speaking of, are we actually ready? Should be. Now then, let's go over the plan. Izuku-kin said, getting everyone's attention. First, we wait until the right time. On the mark of the bell, right? Istring asked, having a watch that beeped as she fiddled with it. Right, then we have Az set up the fire. Let's see. Ah yes, blue sparks. Az said, making a pretty blue fire. They were pretty cool looking, she'd have to admit. She'd take the next one though, she wanted a turn. And finally, we set the flame onto the fuse, starting the firework. Izuku-kin said as she grabbed said fuse. Like this? She asked, putting it onto Az's fire as it was lit. Yes, Clara, just like that. Oh my divvy, it's lit. Izuku-kins shouted like it was a bad thing. She was just checking what he told her. He took it out of her hands and put it out. Ah, Clara, if you light it now, we won't have a big boom to show everyone. And we need it's burning my hand. It's not stopping, Izuku shouted as it continued to move. Az tried stomping and failed to get it to stop. Everybody down, he grabbed the gang and shoved them onto the dirt. She was down. She won. We're safe, Izuku-kins muttered in confusion. Asmodeus saved me? Istrings muttered with a weird red face. I won the game, Clara shouted to the world. No, that's not it. Izuku-kins went up to the failed boom maker and picked it up again. It's a fake. Somebody SWCH it with a dud. Putting off the complaining we should give Velak for nearly killing us all, Az spoke, turning to her before turning back to Izuku-kins. That's not possible. To make a dud they'd need to know what it looked like. And only us, and maybe Krosel, even knew it existed. He now looked confused. And she wasn't even near here, so it had to be a Battler member. Wait, somebody isn't here with us. There's only one member of the club missing right now. Istring pointed out. Izuku-kins had a strange look. It wasn't that excited look he said was fear. It was this weird look, eyes wide open but frozen, not trembling but his eyes looked like an animal. I don't like this, we need to go, he suddenly said, running off. Oh, were they playing race? She would win this time. Even Az didn't complain as they started racing. This would be a fun one. So why did it feel like no one was playing? Gakko wandered the halls, hands clutching scales. Ever since Inko ran off into the magical apparatus battler, they hadn't spent much time together. It was a shame, though she shouldn't have been entirely surprised. She encouraged her, well, friend, to go after the honor student, and she actually managed to succeed in getting him to notice her and have a conversation that didn't start and end with her fainting. Maybe it was just her being terrible. It wasn't like she actually expected her to really do anything. At most, she expected Inko to just keep watching from a distance and talk to her about her wild fantasies as she built a collection of scrapbooks all to herself. She never expected to find herself missing Inko's endless fascination with izukumidoriya. Well, if she made it work out, then maybe it was for the best. The honor student may have been a danger junkie, but he was smart from what she's seen, and he'd put Inko's safety above his own. He proved that at orientation. Maybe he was the push Inko needed to rank up. After all, that's what she wanted for her in the first place. "Gakko!" a light in her life shouted, making the dragon girl turn and see Inko and her gang running in her direction. So she did the one thing she's been doing ever since she came to this school. "Inko!" shout her friend's name as loud as possible, rushing to them. The two embraced as she could feel tears falling down her cheeks. I missed you so much." "Yeah, sorry, life's been pretty busy. Working really strong for our batter's presentation, meeting new friends, getting close and NTMT with Izuku." "Huh? Wait, have they been? But there's no time to focus on all that. Somebody stole our biggest firework." Firework? Those words did not sound like they belonged together. But knowing the honor student's reputation, it was probably something dangerous. Well, in the wrong hands, it's basically a bomb," the green boy answered. "Called it, wait what?" For the sake of someone that's not in the know, how big are we talking?" Gakko asked, a little concerned for the group's safety. "Well, her and Inko, the rest could find a ditch or something." "We were gonna set the sky on fire," the hyper girl shouted with a smile on her face, and that sent a wave of terror into her head. "I'm sorry, I know he's a danger junkie, but does setting the sky on fire not seem overkill?" Gakko shouted to her friend. "Seriously, have some standards for safety. Ignore her, she's being hyperbolic, I hope." Asmodeus clarified, though it didn't give her the reassurance it should have. "Just know it is basically a ball of rainbow fire waiting to be ignited. Outside is the only place it can safely go off, but if someone lights it up on the inside, we could potentially have the entire roof of Babely's collapse over everyone." Midoriya finished for everybody. "So then what are we standing around for? Let's get running." She couldn't let this happen, not when Inko's life was on the line. Unfortunately, her actions never came to pass, as a rumbling overtook the school, with a pressure filling the room. Is everyone okay?" Inko asked the group, getting nods. "Time to continue racing." The little girl cheered obliviously, running headfirst into the air. Wait, something was wrong with that picture. "Huh, why is the air stopping me?" "Something's in the way." Midoriya walked up to the area where Valak fell over, and knocked on the airspace she crashed into. An invisible barrier. His eyes, for the first time she's seen, were filled with a disconcerting despair. "There's only one demon we know that has that kind of magic." Asmodeus walked up to him, placing his hands on the solid air as well. "It feels stronger, but bloodlines are nearly impossible to replicate in any way. Barring your ring, of course." Midoriya looked down on the ring, then at the others with something in his eyes, a fire. "I need to get to the 3rd floor of the building." He spoke with an unusual amount of determination. "Let's work out how." Gakko, despite not knowing these people, quickly learned everything about them due to how quickly they acted during a dire situation. Case in point, Inko punching the wall with incredible force on her side and Clara drilling the machine from the other side, proving neither of them had brain cells. Asmodeus reprimanded them both for doing the same thing over and over and ended up squabbling with the 3 of them, proving that while he was probably the most sane person of the group, his stick-in-the-mud nature got in the way of actual progress. At least she'd give credit to Inko for standing up to him. She's really gotten over her fears, so good for her. "Okay, so I know where Kiriwo-san is most likely going to be. Has this secret hideout where he's been working on his light mana gathering device. So if he's going to set off the firework, it has to be there." Surprisingly, the danger junkie was the most level-headed person here, surprisingly analytical too. Asmodeus paused his squabbling, turning to Midoriya with a curious look. "He has a secret hideout, and that didn't clue you in on something suspicious?" he asked in a way that proved his sanity. "Well, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt." Level-headed, yes, but by God, that bleeding heart was going to bleed out when someone backstabbed him. I don't just assume people are going to turn out to be maniacs when I meet them. By that logic, you don't consider Valak to be a maniac? Gakko had to voice her confusion here. Maniacs for life, the girl in question shouted, now aiming a missile launcher at the barrier as Midoriya snatched it. Awa. I don't assume everyone is out to kill me at every single turn, at least not anymore. He corrected them. Wow, what kind of life did he live if he didn't consider Valak dangerous? Either way, this is a waste of time trying to get through the barrier. Our best bet is to just navigate our way to Kariwo from here. Asmodeus said, sitting down and pulling out a large sheet of paper. He wrote fast and already had the entire school building set up. Impressive. Now then, we know a barrier is here, and for the sake of argument, let's say that they're all over the school. How do we get you two from here to there without hitting dead ends? My ring and his collar are like magnets to each other. They act like a sort of homing device that draws me closer to him. It's how me and Inko ran into him for the first time. Oh yeah, he did fly and crash into Inko a while back. If she knew this is what it led to, she would have pulled her out of the way. And how I found his secret hideout. Now, chase him. There was a steady beat of silence. After him. Find Amy-senpai. Yip yip. Midoriya started to desperately shake the ring. Abracadabra, hocus pocus, Shazam? Now he was just making up weird words. Hey, these barriers are much stronger than what Amy-senpai usually makes. Do you think he broke it and exposed the mana inside? Inko asked as everyone turned to her. What? I was curious, so I studied up on apparatus. You mean memorized easily? Diaminute, you're right. He said it stockpiled mana for when he needed to use it. Guess I never planned for him to release it all at once. Diaminute. He PND on the barrier and started crying heavily. Why did I have to help that madman? Valak pouted. Don't cry, Izuku-kins. You just need to find the barriers, right? Then I'll find all of them. She reached into her pocket, pulling out black paper dolls. A large amount that became a pile. Valak, you psychotic genius, Asmodeus shouted, confusing everyone. Izuku, steal my magic and infuse it into the dolls. Then bring it back. I'll memorize the position and tell you how to move using our hellphone. Izuku nodded, aiming his ring at Asmodeus. Demon mode. He announced out loud, and a small shroud of a shadowy monster appeared in front of him, turning its little body everywhere until it spotted Asmodeus. And with one glare, the taller teen fell to his knees as the creature began spitting fire. Okay, that was slightly impressive. Sorry, I'll be sure to thank you later. Just hurry up, this is about as pleasant as it looks. The pink-haired boy shouted, the bookworm nodding as he got to work igniting the paper soldiers as they stood up. It works. All right, me and Clara will start heading towards him. Once you're done talking me through, take Inko and Gakko and lead them and anyone else you come across to safety. The whole group nodded. I'm sorry, you guys. You only joined the magical apparatus battler because of me. Guess I should apologize to you two, Gakko. Huh, they've barely talked to each other. Why apologize to her? I got your friend mixed into my mess, and now you're both in danger. Oh please, not everything dangerous around here happens because of you. Asmodeus admonished, surprisingly. As ludicrous as it may sound, you're not responsible for every calamity around Beyblades. Are you kidding me? This is the most fun I've had in my entire life. Making friends, building bombs, being backstabbed by evil upperclassmen. This is everything I've hoped for since meeting you. Okay, maybe Midoriya wasn't the only danger junkie here. I don't care about any of that. Izuku-kins, you're my first friend, and I'm yours. I'd do anything with you. Valak picked him up in a suffocating hug. I don't really know you, and I've honestly been afraid to approach you for Inko's sake. Gakko spoke next. But you make her happy, so I guess things are cool between us. Maybe we can try being friends, you know, if we don't die tonight. He started to cry again, but quickly wiped them away. Thanks. I look forward to it. Clara, let's roll. Valak literally did as Midoriya followed right beside her. Isn't he just the coolest? Inko elatedly shrieked. Yeah, I guess I can kinda see what you like about him. He was obviously crazy, but he tried to focus all that crazy on himself. Guess that didn't make him too bad. Didn't think he was so sensitive though. Kinda cute, in a puppy sort of way. Don't fall for him too, Gakko. I have a strong enough time dealing with Clara. Don't worry about it, I'm not crazy enough to get between you and him. True, between Inko and him, it was probably too much for her to handle. Momonoki Morax stood by, telling students to remain calm. Just a few minutes ago the barriers appeared, now at a loss for what to do. She knew they were strong enough that she couldn't scratch them, and her frogs told her the entire school was surrounded. No way in or out of Babels was available. Even the underground roads were closed off. Ah, if only she had Caligo's guidance for this. His strong and imposing wisdom, that calm and refined demeanor, those succulent lips that she wasn't thinking of. No, of course, someone as dignified as him wouldn't fall prey to carnal longing. He was too strong-willed to ever even imagine such a notion. Although, such a state must put a lot of stress on himself, maybe she could help with that. She was cut off by a communication from the man himself. All teachers, this will be a surprise event for the students. Guide them all to the courtyard for a prize. He spoke. Odd, she didn't remember any of course, this was just to keep peace. Brilliant of the man, as always. Solivian was a genius to leave such a demon in charge. She definitely wouldn't mind Caligo being chair demon full-time. Oh, the things they could get away with. That she definitely hasn't been dreaming about, because she was a dignified teacher just like her idol. Her associate. Regardless, she had a job to do and see it through. All right students, gather up. First ones through the maze get part of the prize, she shouted, the students muttering excitedly with one another. Excellent, they were buying it. Although, she could only hope this meant the other members of faculty had managed to root out the source of this situation. With all these barriers, it felt like someone was trying to trap them in a maze of some sort. At least they could all get outside. Though why would whoever set up these invisible walls leave a way for them to navigate? The more she thought about it, the more it didn't make sense. The entire school was enclosed so no one or no signal could leave, and multiple internal barriers that originally seemed to make it difficult to navigate the source. Instead, they were just shaped into paths and such. Like they meant for whoever was within the school to follow the path outside. She shook her head. Caligo had it handled. He looked over the misfit class. Something like this must have been just an average school day for him. Amory tapped her foot, watching the students gather. From the upperclassmen, to the freshmen, to the battlers. There were a few uppers who realized what was going on, and as such decided to try and appease everyone. The most popular being the magical Bast Battler's performance. She commended their efforts, applauding their ability to keep the peace to avoid mass panic, but as time went on, there was that continuing nagging feeling in her head that something much more devious was coming. She in normal circumstances would have just rushed to whoever was making a scene and beat them to a pulp. But these walls didn't budge even with her strongest kicks. Even with that new plus ultra technique Izuku spoke with her about, she was glad that said honor student wasn't around to see her fail. Speaking of which, this entire time, she's seen neither him or the rest of his battler all day, and she couldn't help but pout a little. Izuku was really hush-hush about what kind of apparatus his team was working on, and it sent butterflies through her stomach. Knowing him, it would most definitely be worth watching, and she'd be there for him if anything went wrong, which was a 50-50 chance. It was a shame, too. She recalled in first love memories of the two main leads going on a date to a festival such as this, with appealing burning flowers dancing in the sky, covering them in pretty lights as the two leaned in and... Amory shook herself as the crowd got antsy with its cheering, moving harder and faster as students got pushed out of the way. She would have to step in at this point. She started walking to the stand, moving faster when she heard wood start to creak. The stage broke as she jumped high, feeling the power flow as she kicked the debris left and right, holding her arms up to shield the rest. "Are you okay?" she asked, turning her head. Looking down, she saw two students, along with a familiar pink-haired Asmodeus that hung around Izuku, giving signals on a phone. "All right, Izuku, you're gonna want to take a right now, and then keep going straight." "Wait, was he?" "Yeah, we're fine." The blonde girl spoke lightly, with a flushed face, likely from danger. Her dragonic-looking friends stared at the blonde with exasperation, likely for getting into the situation in the first place. "Thank you." "Inko, you know what, you do you. I'm done questioning the madness at this point." The dragon-like demon girl rolled her eyes. Sorry, my friend recently became a danger junkie. She's still sorting out a lot of feelings. No problem at all. Amory turned to the silent crowd, needing to talk with them before addressing a concern. Everyone, you may have your chaos, but do it orderly. Do I make myself clear? Yes, ma'am, they all scream. Before muttering about how to do that, it didn't matter. Something Asmodeus said concerned her. Are you talking to Izukumidoriya? Where is he? She asked. If something dangerous was going on, then she needed to protect him. Needed to watch over him to make sure he didn't do anything worse. That's right, that was why she needed to have him by her side. Madam President ... it quotas comma, it's really bad. I'm afraid we all fell into the machinations of a crazy madman, and Izuku and Velak are the only ones at the moment who can do anything to stop it. Asmodeus told her, before going back to the phone. Take a right, left and oh, you're there. Good luck, and don't be a moron. He hung up the phone, turning back to her. Please, trust us. He gave a light bow. You call him Izuku as well, huh? Amory recognized, getting him to look back at her. He's a good friend to you, isn't he? Better than I deserve at any rate. He sighed regretfully. I guess that's why I feel. No, I know he can stop this. He's going to save everybody. She gave a light smile. I'm sure he is. Amory walked away, ignoring the screaming from the blonde as she went to the rest of the student council. Listen up, everyone be on guard and ready. Anything could happen, and we need to be prepared. Yes, MDM President, they shouted before running off like the soldiers they were. She sighed, pushing away the feeling inside. Izuku probably has this, right? So before we move on, do you mind explaining what's going on there? Asmodeus decided to ask the dragon girl, pointing to the fellow battler now melted on the floor in an undignified manner. At this point I just say she has a damsel complex. The girl sighed in annoyance. Anyone that saves her causes another romantic attraction to bloom. She stared at the puddle in question. That or she just has a thing for dangerous people and situations. It in all honesty could be both at this point. That explained the situation with her Izuku worship. He then thought about the time he pushed her down to avoid the firework that didn't go off, and really hoped it was the latter. Whatever the case, we're running out of time, assuming he'll set off the big firework after the bell rings. He looked at the clock. They were down to a few minutes. His chest tightened. Something was very off in this situation. He had no qualms that Izuku couldn't handle himself in a dangerous situation, but this was beyond that. An emotional manipulator that hid their potential and had enough stockpiled mana to reach the levels of one of the great lords ... It was like looking at an evil version of Izuku. The chair demon wasn't here either. Apparently there was a problem even Izuku wasn't aware of. That meant the entire school was in very real danger that they had no safety net for. He gritted his teeth. Well then, what are we just standing here worried about? We're going to do something about it, the girl asked. Panic is just going to make the situation worse. As much as it pains me, everyone being in the courtyard is the best option at the moment. The teachers already created a cover, and we'll make sure tonight's festival goes off without a hitch. Is that really the best plan we have? The dragon girl argued, pointing accusedly. You have one of those paper doll things with you, right? Can't you charge it as well and follow him? Midoriya looks like an okay guy, but what's to say he won't make the situation worse? You of all people should know what a trouble magnet he is. Yes, I know that, and it tears me on the inside that students like you, that people like me are always assuming some sort of extreme with him, he yelled, not feeling this passionate with his words since Execution Cannonball. When he chanted those forbidden spells, I thought he was a show-off trying to coast on with Sullivan's name. When he didn't bother fighting back at me, I thought he was an arrogant prick looking down on me, but that's not it. Inko managed to get up, and somewhat lost the love-struck expression on his face. You're actually sorry about? Yes I am. I treated him like dirt, like he was this plague that would drag everyone down with him. But all he wanted was a little kindness, to just not fight, and being the idiot I am, I swatted that away and made him miserable. And the worst part about it, I'm not the only one. I'm just the latest in a long chain of brutes. The two girls let the man finish his rant, feeling exhausted in an emotional way he's rarely felt before. Inko stood up, a fire in her eyes. All right then, all we can do is help others have fun. If Amy-senpai wants to drag the magical apparatus battler through the gutter, then we'll bring it back. And you're going to help, because you're a good friend, Asmodeus. She finished. Those words, that one word, friend, said by his would-be victim. It was such an appealing word to hear. Right, Izuku wants to light up the sky. I say we pave the path for him. He showed off his signature flame. Inko, you still have the color-changing chemicals. Yeah, just a sec. She blushed as she pulled out a few vials of fluid. And Gappo? He asked about the other one. Gakko. Sorry, not used to actually knowing all these names at once. This was going to be a long process for him, but it would be worth it. Think you can gather up a crowd around us? Ah, yeah, that should be no problem, I think. Good. Until Izuku gets back, it's up to us to keep the show going. I can give everyone a taste before the real thing arrives. He raised his fist in the air. We'll plant a smile on everyone's face. Plus ultra. Plus what? Gakko questioned again. It's sorta our club chant, Inko explained. Plus ultra. Okay then, plus ultra. They spoke much less enthusiastically, mostly out of confusion. Whatever, they would do this no problem. Thanks again. Dalton spoke to the group. Bathrin still couldn't believe he got a teacher to use the broadcasting station. So cool. We really appreciate the secrecy and energy you're putting into this. Not a problem. We're always happy to be of use. The Battler president shot a thumbs up. I gotta say though, no one's ever used the broadcasting battler for emergencies before. It must be something really bad. Well, hopefully this'll help get everyone to safety. We couldn't have done this without any of you. The whole group cheered, actually being important. This day would go down in history. Yeah, just glad we were able to gather everyone in one place. Yeah, in one place, Dalton muttered, getting a look from everyone. Oh, sorry, thinking out loud, probably nothing. He waved them off. Say, are you guys able to get a message out yet? He asked the group. No, nothing at all. I'm really sorry about that, sir. It was really bad too. They should have invested in earthlines or something. No problem, we have a backup in the making. Something old school you could say. The teacher stared off at a green shooting star. Weird, didn't see that earlier, but pretty nonetheless. Oh, I guess the magical apparatus battler was able to pull it off. Good for them. One of the members idly mentioned. It really does look like an exploding flower. Dalton gave them a look. Exploding flower? He asked, a strange look of concern. Yeah, I heard it earlier as they rushed by the other day. They wanted to create a huge fire flower that could cover the whole sky. That one looked small, but it's likely just a stray or something. At that, Dalton's entire face panicked. He reached up to his ear. Everyone, we could be dealing with a bomb. Evacuate the courtyard, I repeat, evacuate the courtyard. He looked even more worried a few seconds later. What do you mean they've been sealed? The students in the broadcasting room began panicking. Who could blame them? A bomb. So many people would die. The newcomers, the fluffs, that kid falling out of a window. Wait, what was that last one? Bathan lost his thought as said kid launched something very strange into the sky. We're here as, thanks for everything. Izuku Kins nodded before hanging up. We reached the wall, that means we won, right? She asked him with a bright and cheery smile. Izuku Kins paused, looking like he wanted to say something before stopping. He eventually reached down and put a hand on her shoulder, looking super serious. Clara, listen to me very carefully. What happens in there, it's not a game. You need to be prepared to defend yourself, okay? He asked her. Of course I can defend myself, just like I always do, like during tag, or mean cheaters, or that rookie hunt. That was a fun game. This would be like that. He didn't need to tell her to win it. They always won it. He looked guilty for some reason, reaching to one of the bricks and pressing on it, revealing a secret button. What was he talking about before? Secret buttons and hidden runes were always fun. He could be such a worrywart at times. Good thing she was here to keep him smiling. Behind the door they walked in, finding a really bright ball that looked like their firework. Oh, he was making sure the battery wouldn't die? That was super thoughtful of Kiramake-senpai. Okay, Clara, looks like he's trying to charge that firework with a ton of magic. If it's too much, the boom will go off early and hurt a lot of people. Oh, we better tell him to stop. She nodded, now noticing him looking at them with a smile. Kuramake-senpai, you need to stop this. Do it too much and you get an early boom, and that's no fun. She pouted at him. The upperclassman simply laughed. Weird, she didn't tell him a joke. I'm glad you came here in all honesty. I thought that somehow we would meet before Midoriya, even prayed that we could be together. You deserve to be okay during this event. Just didn't see her coming along, but win some lose some. Don't just talk like we're old buddies meeting up, Kuriwo. Oh, he was using just his first name. Usually Izuku-kin said the last one. He didn't even add honorific nicknames. Just stop this now, we can forget this happened, and we can talk it out and watch the fireworks we wanted to see for everyone. Hee, yeah, no. I've waited far too long for today to happen, and I'm not going to budge an inch. Kuramake-senpai spoke in a jerkish voice. It's my firework too, you know? Don't I have a say in where it goes off? Come on, we need to watch the fireworks, Kuramake-senpai. We worked days on it and everything. He was being really rude for some reason. If this goes off, then there's no coming back for you. People will be hurt. Your dream, remember, to eradicate rank? Did you forget it? Izuku-kin shouted really loudly. Wow, he was getting real into this roleplay game. I've forgotten nothing, Izuku-kin. The upperclassman spoke. Ugh, she didn't like how he used her nickname for Izuku-kin. Of course, by eruditing rank, first you gotta start with the feeble butthats that buy into all that bullshit. Oh, was this a supervillain game? It was getting strong to tell because they didn't talk about it beforehand. Weird, but she could improvise. But that's more than getting rid of people, that's mass murder. I know you're motivated, but you don't need to kill people to get what you want. Going this route is only going to make you look like a power-hungry monster who's just jealous of everyone else. Yeah, baddies just take shortcuts and stuff for fun. Just tell us why you want to do it so badly, she spoke, using her detective skills. He laughed again, something off about it. Yes, I'll tell you my story then. We have time until it goes off after all. She pulled out a seat, taking it and giving one to Izuku-kin, who didn't sit. Weird, he liked sitting, it helped him write. Don't I get a seat, Clara-chan? You up. Gross, it's not cute when you say it, Clara meant that sincerely. It was wrong for anyone other than Izuku-kin to give her cute nicknames. Awa, you'll hurt my feelings. He smiled, Izuku-kin putting an arm in front of her defensively. He was taking this a little far. She could protect herself, it wasn't anything bad. Well, regardless, let's start with my family. Story time. The Amy clan were a strong bunch, perfect defensive magic. Barriers to protect nations all over the netherworld. Well, except for me, I was born weak and frail. Because of that I was shunned. Huh, that sounded weirdly familiar. Was he copying Izuku-kin's story? That's both evil and lazy. He was a madman. And even my own mother rejected me, as I was kicked out of the clan. Well, that was just a stupid backstory. Mommies can't hate their children. Be smarter about this. With this shame I carried, I was cast out all alone and sent to the Garden of Delinquites, where they were to nurture the little magic we did have, though more often than not they just kept hitting us until we did something resembling useful. Going for a sad backstory. Not sure if she was buying it. Izuku-kin seemed weirdly invested though. Even there I was alone, at least, until I met her. She was the light of my life, calling my horns adorable even. He chuckled, almost like he was watching an old movie and laughing, like her daddy did sometimes. When you think about it, I probably would have called her my first friend. Neither of us were skilled at magic, but that didn't matter. We just had fun, no need for ranks to get in the way of anything. Ooh, was this going for the tragic romance angle? This sounded like a backstory for a serial killer. But then, the stronger kids got annoyed at us. They grabbed her precious good luck heirloom. She called them out on their behavior, and they threw it away like garbage over a cliff. I tried my best, really I did, I actually caught it on my barrier. But I turned to look at her, calling my name happily, and my focus wasn't the best back then, so it shattered like glass. The one treasure in her life fell into the river. Oh, getting back at bullies. That's why he wanted the school to go bye-bye. She had this look of complete and utter despair on her face, one that pinched at something inside of me. That face is still in my dreams to this day. Izuku-kin stood straighter, getting angry. Look, that's bad and I get it. I can help you try and make right with her and reprimand her bullies, but this outcry of death isn't going to do anything. Oh, but I didn't get to the most important part about it. Seeing that look of happiness, the hope across her face suddenly vanished, revealing nothing but despair, nothing but disdain for life, the helplessness. It was so appealing to see. There was a silence that overtook the room. His face had this twisted smile on it, eyes clouded in pleasure and nose bleeding. She felt cold, but it wasn't a draft. This was wrong. This was very wrong. Kiramake-senpai, you're taking the game too far. She spoke quietly. No, I haven't taken it far enough. And quite frankly, I think it's about time someone took you off the board. Something that felt like strong air hit her across the face, and she found herself practically glued to the wall. Oh, he was actually hurting her? Seriously, I commend you, Izuku. I don't know how you didn't throw her out the first chance you got. Clara, Izuku-kin shouted, now looking angry. Don't you dare. Izuku-kin's was shoved to the ground. Kiri. Amy grabbed his arms and was sitting on his stomach. But I don't care about that, I care about you the most, he shouted in sick glee. Can you imagine it? Once that firework goes off, everyone dies. The families will be struck with an unholy grief and wreak havoc upon the world as the stairs of rank change to steep hills of survival. He wanted to hurt Mommy and the others. She formed a small spear-like Sabro mountain maid at times, trying her hardest to hit the thing, keeping her against the wall over and over. And look at her, so desperate to try and escape. Once she realizes that nothing she can do will stop it, she'll cry out in despair. He laughed, nose bleeding like a sicko. Won't it be appealing? You're... Izuku-kin's muttered. Clara could barely form a single thought, so confused, so distraught, so angry at Amy. This couldn't be part of the game. You're just a villain, a real-life, demented villain. This wasn't a game. Yes, that sound of utter defeat. That realization that all of it had been bullshit and lies. Yep, a complete and utter villain, a demon returned to their origins. Ah, Aniki was right. Even in the bigger moments, the small people that meant much to you still stood out the most. So what? Do you just get off seeing everything miserable? Seeing everyone sadder than you makes you happy? Exactly, Kiriwo shouted with glee. When I saw her cry, it was the best day of my life. It made me realize that the feeling in my heart when Mom abandoned me wasn't some petty sadness, but a warm comfort in my soul, he laughed. And the girl, I wanted to pay her back for giving me such an appealing present. She lost her gift and called my horns adorable, so I ripped it off and gave one to her. She looked so disgusted with me it drove me wild. That's sick, the Valak girl screamed from her prison. You're a terrible person and a horrible friend. What about the fun we had together? Did that mean nothing to you? Of course it meant something. It meant for once, people actually cared about me enough to get close. Do you know how rare it is for me to make the pain personal? I really thank you all for giving me such an appealing picture to tear up and destroy. He gave a viscous grin. I really was running out of luck with ideas too, so thank you for the fireworks. Ah, the defeated look of Clara-chan gave him joy. Maybe he'd save her too, or just let her burn slower. However, something more important stood here. The stage was set, all of it. Now then, I don't care if you hate me, are disgusted with me, or if you want to rip out my liver and organs. He held on to his kohai tighter. You're the only one who can give me what I want, Izuku. Or, should I say, Deku? What are you going on about? His disgust was too much to handle at once. Oh, this was going to be too glorious for words. You get me. You understand me more than anyone. We're both weaklings who need items just to live in this world, who were abandoned by everyone, who had friends that ditched us when our nature came to light, Kiriwo shouted, clutching him almost tenderly. You had your grandpa, I had my Aniki. We had people that supported us and our ambitions, and thanks to you, everyone you care for will die. I want to thank you. I want you to watch and survive. I'll put you in a cute little box to watch this whole thing go down. He thought he saw the beginnings of tears swell up in those emerald orbs of his. Oh, the legendary waterworks he's heard so much about. An entire sea of misery just waiting to burst open. But what I want most right now, more than anything, is that look. Show it to me, Deku-kun. Show me your despair. This would be exhilarating. If only he had a camera. My ambition. Izuku looked away. trying to divert his hateful eyes. You know, ever since I started living here, a lot of people tend to have this habit of jumping to conclusions a lot, specifically about what I want. Don't try to act brave now. You have nothing to gain and everything to lose. But you're the most off-kilter one here, he said, pushing Kiriwo off. Wait, this was off. Catch on? He was shaped by the world of cruel people. My dad? He was just a man looking after himself. Izuku started gathering boxes. Where was it? Stop stalling. Criminals are usually in desperate situations and take money for either themselves or their family. Villains usually have some ideals that the system goes against. Yeah, that was basically who he was. Now get one with it. Me, I was just born unlucky. My dad could breathe fire, my mom can levitate objects towards herself. Catch-on could make explosions with his sweat, but not me. Not a single ounce of power or anything special. I get it. There's no difference between us, so is there actually a point to the pedantic rant? But you see, there was this one man I saw. He was just really good at his job. He saved the day, countless people, for no reason other than to help them. And I think that's the difference between you and me, Kiriwo. Izuku grabbed the firework, ignoring their burning hands as he turned, smiling at him. You saw a tear and wanted to make more of it. I saw a smile and wanted to make more of it. It was at that moment Kiriwo realized he was wrong. They were fundamentally different. They could never see eye to eye unless he made the stakes higher or harder to achieve. The boy wanted to help people, just like he said, and Kiriwo didn't listen. This wasn't right. He was going to try and stop it. He couldn't see the despair. He wouldn't meet Deku. Put it down, he said sternly. Besides my barriers, nothing can contain that explosion. You'll be risking your life. Risk? Midoriya spoke, giving a chuckle. Haven't you heard the gossip, Kiriwo? The boy looked up, giving him a feral smile. One full of confidence, of determination, of everything he wanted to take away. I'm a danger junkie. And with that he ran straight to the window. Izuku Kins, he heard the Valak shout, running out to see the boy aim towards the sky. Ifrit mode, the girl let out a gasp, the boy's hand giving off a glow. Libera, he shouted. A dragon was formed from his grasp, rockets on the side propelling a pink fire that launched it high, where golden scales could shine brightly. This is us, Kiriwo. This is the magical apparatus battler you made. The ball lifted higher, and smack. Sounds of a ball smacking against pavement could be heard all around, and Izuku's expression couldn't have been more confused. What? So appealing. Did you forget the barriers? Kiriwo shouted, happiness radiating off of him. Oh, for such a smart guy, he could be so forgetful of the bigger details. But it made Izuku have a charm to him. I've been building this mana for years. Its power is unrivaled. He laughed loudly, the crowd unable to hear them as they chanted the countdown. All that effort wasted. All your hopes and ambitions are going to dust. Even with the power of Sullivan, you couldn't hope to break it. That boy, he didn't stop his smiling. If anything, it became more feral. This is gonna hurt, but I guess I need to go plus ultra in this situation. Sorry, Grandpa Pandorula. The ring glued even brighter, a ding sound so elegant to the ears, then the screaming began. Izuku Kins, he forgot about the girl. The barrier dropped due to the focus he needed on the roof. She forgot about him too as well, rushing to see what was going on. And it was an unbelievable sight indeed. Izuku's entire body started to break and morph as he let out something wild, his hair changing colors like a kaleidoscope, wings spouting and looking unnatural to any demon. Small feathers and fur grew on his body, along with himself becoming taller than before. It almost looked like a excavator, a winged rabbit creature he's read about once. It probably would have looked cute if it wasn't currently messing up his plans. Izuku didn't let this faze him, closing his hand and winding it back in what seemed to be a punch. Libera. Magic swirled over his entire arm, looking chaotic and unruly. Smash, and with a move forward the dragon expanded and shifted. Metal formed as snakes seemed to coil around it, a language unknown as it produced a mist to spread further. Spikes of blades and spears became present along with this ethereal white light. Roar. No, it's not possible. He thought he had an equal, a partner. All the parts were there. Why didn't he hate these people? Why didn't he want to see everyone dead? Izuku Kins, Clara-chan cried out, holding a piece of rope that was stored in the back of the room somewhere. and threw it towards him, though it missed. "Come on, you didn't teach me about grappling thingies just so you could die in front of me." Izuku-kins didn't hear her, too busy screaming with the dragon, cracks forming in his perfect and almighty barrier bit by bit, more and more until, finally, the barrier gave way, the dragon soaring high and high as shards fell and vanished. All this effort, planning, time wasted because someone took the nobody gets hurt route and sacrificed themselves with a smile. He could see it in a reflection. The look on his own face. Despair. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 5. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and authors 616 MCU and Hazzard Overflow on FANFICTIONnet and AO3. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.